Here we are, episode 5, ready to rock and roll. Let's go, baby. We're going to keep them coming. This is a weekly ritual for us now, and it's something that I think we both look forward to every week. We get to have a little bit of fun. Not that, what we do on our day to day isn't fun, but there are things that, are less fun than others and are sometimes can feel like a grind. So it's nice to have this little break in the pace throughout the week, and we get to do something that we're actually passionate about. And I think we're gonna say we're pretty darn passionate about today's subject. Would you agree?
Yeah, very much
You
so.
wanna tell the listeners what we're gonna be talking about today?
So today we're going to talk about leadership, but not in the way that the word is received a lot of times. Leadership sounds like something everybody wants to do, but we're going to actually go into the details on what it actually takes to lead. So leadership sounds really fun. Leadership sounds like a gold star. Like, look, like I want to do this. It sounds like something that you can get passionate about. But when you get to the actual application of what it takes to be a leader, it has its moments where it is beautiful, but it also has its moments where it can be a grind, and you can feel um lost. You can feel like you can't possibly get it right. But that's a feeling I think all leaders of all, no matter what you're leading, who you're leading, even leading yourself, those feelings are going to happen. And so what is I'm excited about most with this is going and taking something that can seem overwhelming or seem confusing, breaking it into small chunks and kind of going through each section or each area of it like a book almost, and taking it one chapter at a time and just kind of defining what it is, how can you do it, what are things that people who've come before us, they say success leaves clues. So we take some stuff that's worked, and then we're going to share with you things that we've done that has both yielded the results we wanted and the results we didn't want. And then the big thing is uh, the things that we didn't want to happen. Don't just stop there. You have to ask why. That way you can actually grow from it, because the um, leadership itself is extremely exciting, but it does come with different parts of it. So, Carter, what is um, what is leadership?
Great question. So, and we're going to dive off into that and really unpack this. Because one of the biggest things that I think you have to ask yourself is, what type of leader do you want to be, right? Because
Mm.
so you have these different types that are in so-called leadership positions, but are you actually being a leader or are you being a manager or a boss? Because to me, those are different things. They're not the same. And then there's varying different degrees of leadership, right? But within those ranges does not fit management or a boss, because I feel like a boss is their way or the highway, and you're just there to take orders, right? And then management is I'm just keeping everything in its box, right? And just making sure that nothing is going astray, but I'm not really developing, improving, or taking stuff to the next level or figuring out how I can innovate, right? So I'm just more so like a game manager in football. I'm just literally making sure that we don't mess up. That's it, right? That's how I see those two categories. And then your leader is developing. Your leader is taking people and evolving them and getting to where we talked about in previous episode, where their goal is to essentially get it to where you don't need them anymore, right? To where they are self-sustaining, and then they get to the point to where they're able to cultivate other leaders themselves. And now we've really taken it to the next level, because that's what I think the goal should be from leadership, in my opinion, is we should be trying to create future leaders ourselves.
Yeah.
And then that is the ultimate goal and attainment of leadership. And in my opinion, says how good of a leader you actually were is how many great leaders did you create? So, because I think that's another piece of Nick Saban's legacy that does get talked about, but it's somewhat undershadowed by how many national championships he won. But I think part of why he won so many national championships was because of his ability to cultivate leaders. And then let's think about, all the coaches that have gone on to have great success and that came from the Nick Saban coaching tree, right?
Yeah.
So,
Which people would say, like, quote unquote, without him, but it's one of those things where are they without him? Because the things he taught, the things he shared with them, Kirby at Georgia, Lane, and the list is forever, but just those people, it's like, yeah, Nick's maybe not in the locker room, but the foundation, the practices, the way, the things he taught and the things they consumed, um, obviously yields results, so that's really, I find that, I think that's the most beautiful part, or the most exciting, encouraging part of leadership, with all the things that come with it that are less desirable, let's just say. Those moments are pretty sacred. Like when you see, like when you're, as whether you're on the, like, as a leader, when you're able to see someone, not need you, but then you're able to see them bloom, and you're able to see them have results. I think that's the greatest gift to a leader, is that, because
yep.
you're able to feel like your work was not wasted. Like, you invested the time, the energy into someone, and then they took it and turned it into something. So I think that's what we're all after. But
And just making sure that you don't fall in that trap like we see with a lot of people, and why there's a lot of bad bosses or managers out there, is the reason for why they wanted that position in the first place
yeah,
wasn't for the right reasons, right?
right.
It was because they want the title, they want the good things that come with it, but they don't want the quote unquote hard things, tough things, and their goal is not to create leaders. Their goal is to be in charge, to be the man. And those are the people of when they get into leadership or into a management position, they usually don't make it because they're in it for the wrong reasons. So it's definitely making sure that you're taking that position for the right reasons. Because if you take it for the wrong reasons, it's going to be hell. Like you're going to be on the struggle bus. It is not going to be easy because perspective changes the outcomes that you get. It changes how you are perceiving reality, as we talked about in previous episodes. And even with my own, past with insurance, told the story of my first go around with it, anxiety attacks, panic attacks, and then waited years, matured, got older, got a different perspective, get back into it. It's actually, I have way more claims and it's way more chaos, but I'm actually, for the most part, 9 out of 10 days having a good day and enjoying myself and enjoying the challenge that's coming from it because I was shifting the focus. I knew where I was going. I knew where I wanted to go. I knew that I needed certain skills. There were things that I sucked at. I knew that that job was going to give me a bunch of reps in a very intense environment to where I could be forged at the highest level and the fastest. And so I just focused on that. And so instead of having anxiety attacks, I was killing it. I was having great days and I was just focusing on all the little growths that I was getting. So
Yeah.
completely changed my experience, and that applies to leadership. So if you're in it for the right reasons, then you're probably going to have a good experience and it's going to work out well for you. But if you're in it for the wrong reasons, probably not going to work out well for you. And people are going to see through your BS, and they're eventually going to mutiny or you know, rebel against you. Like it's just gonna happen. It's just a matter of time. So
And I think what you were saying, it's like, I say it all the time, but that's where the juice is. A really good filter is the juice worth the squeeze, and the people who are taking uh, leadership management positions for simply the title's not enough, and it's fleeting, and they want the juice without the squeeze,
correct.
because in the leadership, that squeeze is required,
Fired.
and the juice will come, and some fruits are juicier than others, but the reality is like that squeeze is baseline. Like we've said it. You had the patch before, like embrace the suck.
Yep.
Like that was big in the Air Force. It was something that, um, you know, talking about your insurance days, like the environment didn't change. It could be illustrate that the environment actually the intensity increased, but the warrior was different.
Mhm.
There was a different perspective within the person in the environment, and the perspective saw opportunity versus obstacle. And that's just summarizing. Those are very simple ways to put it. But yeah, and it's something that is not, again, the title's not enough, and it's not easy. You have to equip yourself with these little sayings, these little uh, you have to equip yourself with principles and reminders, and just remember, and you need a good why, and then you need a good system that reminds you of that why. Because again, the squeeze can suck sometimes. And it's just like, and the part here that I don't want to get us too far ahead, but like you're the leader. So if you hopefully you have good counsel, hopefully you have other leaders you can lean on and stuff. And I think that's what we should be doing, is kind of reminding each other of the basics when we get in those situations. Like, hey, stick to the, like, I know it sounds crazy, but stick to the basics. It's like, hey, if we go back to our why, and the why is valid, the why is for the right reasons, a lot of times, that's all we needed to kind of pull ourselves out of say the mindset that's not getting us results. And then we can kind of just truly look at the same situation differently.
So this leads me into a question. So what did you misunderstand about leadership before you actually got in a leadership position?
Oh, this is a good one. So this is a good one. I thought that it would be a lot easier. And I had the assumption prior to being in a leadership position that everyone wants to improve, and everyone's like thirsting for growth just as much as that as I was, and they just don't know how to do it. And um that was one of the biggest, like, woes, is figuring out that there's some people that do not wanna grow, and that's one of those things. I watched a video with Elon where he talks about, essentially wishful thinking, where he's like, you want something to be true so bad that you ignore the facts, or you ignore reality, because you want what you want to be true. And that was very that and I'm still struggling with that. But that's my biggest misunderstanding about leadership, is I thought it was a lot simpler than it is. It's extremely complex. And and to simplify, the main thing is that I thought it would be, I thought you just had to equip people with the knowledge, and then they would go. And that's not that I have found that not to be true. There are a select few that you do just need to get them over the hump. But what I also found is that, um, leadership has a lot to do, um, which is where you've been very helpful for me, is like reminders. Like a lot of leadership, you have a conversation and you feel like people are going to change the world after that conversation, and then a lot, like, not always, but sometimes, um, that conversation was a waste of time, because the people are just telling you what you want to hear, because they know that's what you want to hear as their leader, and then they have no intent or system to be able to execute what y'all just talked about. And so that's a long answer. So what about you? What did you misunderstand about leadership before having to lead people?
Yeah, so I also dealt with that one as well. So since you answered that one, I think the second one would be is the overcoming the, I call it the like versus respected paradigm. And so I thought that as long as I just got everybody to like me, that they would listen and follow and I can influence them, and I just needed to be somebody that they liked. And I learned the hard way that that is not the case. They're more likely to not listen to you and not respect you because you are not holding a line, you're not being somebody of principle, and oftentimes, you'll have people not like when you're holding a line and you're not budging, you're not deviating, and you're sticking to your principles. They don't like it in the moment, but what you find is they'll come back later after the fact and thank you for doing that because A, it's rare, and they saw that that is what needed to happen. They just couldn't see it in the moment because of like what you were saying, they were blinded by just wanting to see what they wanted to happen, right?
Yep.
And so they felt like you were being an a-hole and trying to rob them of their deal or whatever the case is, and you weren't. You were trying to protect them, protect the company. And I oftentimes, especially today, I always make sure that I do it in a fair, I put it through the lens of, is this a balance request that I'm asking for? Is there mutual risk on both ends? And then sometimes it's I'm countering with I'm still taking a 60% risk instead of a 50-50 or a 70% risk. And then that other person on the other side is telling me that that's still not good enough. And I'm like, well, then if that's a problem, we probably shouldn't be in business together because you're wanting a lopsided deal and you're good with that. So that tells me a lot about your character. And so getting people to understand that in your charge in the moment, because they're like, you're just turning, you don't want me to get this deal. You're just scared. You got people like all of these things they say, and that's, fair. But it's holding that standard, holding that line, and not saying yes just because you want people to like you, right?
Yeah.
And then, because in order to get people to follow you, you don't need them to like you, you need them to respect you. And then so I lead with respect first, and then over time, you'll find that they learn to like you because they do respect you. But,
Yeah.
so that was a very tough one that I had to overcome. I really learned that lesson the most in my insurance career, and then early on in when I switched over to roofing, and then once I was like 100% that like okay, I need to shift how I'm doing this. It wasn't something that was like up for debate for me anymore, and it has allowed me to actually give me the highest probability of getting somebody over the hump and being able to get them to be able to be the best version of themselves and like actually cultivate them to be able to lead themselves without me. But if you don't, you're gonna struggle. Like it's something that I feel like all leaders have to learn the hard way, and I was not the devoid of it, and what you were talking about, I wasn't devoid of that either. I had to learn that lesson also the hard way. So
Yeah, and just to put a pin on to acknowledge that respect versus like, um, the one of the things that ties back into, the wishful thinking, and we have to be mindful of that as leaders, is I did not want that to be true so bad. I was like, "Wait a minute, I want people to like me and respect me." And the one of the things I'll outline, for myself is I really started to, because I didn't wanna believe that was required, uh, I started to evaluate people who are doing things and you would vote yes that they like you, watch how disrespectful they are. Like, I know that sounds really hateful and that sounds really negative, but I'm asking you to use it as a test. Like, take inventory of a week for people you feel like you have the best relationship with, and then evaluate, like, write it down, like, write the person's name down, and then say, "Like or respect," and then circle one of them. And then do that. When you get your list, and if you circled "like," then take that, and then take inventory of how nonchalantly disrespectful those people are to you. And when you do that, this is for people like me that are more stubborn and hard-headed, like, I didn't have the insurance time, and I did not want that to be true, but then when you do that and you put it on paper, and you're honest with yourself, um, it's eye-opening to see how not not like yelling and screaming disrespectful, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just little decisions, like, "Hey, Carter, I did this, and then you go look under the hood and you see that they did it halfway. And then if you have standards, you would categorize that as disrespect because you're like, hey, I have to do all this other stuff. Like you're aware of the process. You know what this does to me when you prepare a job this way, or you don't hit on this thing, and then you start to see, and it'll answer your own question. Like you'll have it illustrated for yourself, your thoughts, your words. No one has to persuade you. You don't have to just blindly follow. You'll see how disrespectful people are treating you, and then you'll be able to have clarity that, hey, they just flat it's not a big deal. They just don't respect me. And then you need to work on that. But that'll get you over the hump of like,
Well,
is it
and
required?
I want to add a piece to that though that you can't leave out, or you're going to see that situation in a incomplete light, and you're most likely going to get the wrong result, which is that's your fault.
Yeah,
Their disrespect is your fault.
exactly.
People are going to hurt, like they're not liking that I said that. I can assure you. But that disrespect is your fault. Would you like to tell them why it would be our fault in those situations, the audience?
Because expectations is what's coming to me. Like the the for at least for me, it's you have shown that it's okay for people to disrespect you. So it's not their fault that they keep doing what you told them's okay.
Okay. Yep.
So I say the word expectation out the gate for those, just to summarize it up. It's like you set, and this is very hard as a leader to admit this, but you set expectations that someone can disrespect you, and then it's okay. So when they continue to disrespect you, and then one day you wake up and realize it, and I'm glad you made that point, you now have to take accountability and say, now I need to reset expectations, which you can do it a myriad of different ways. But I implore you to calm yourself, be aware of your state, your awareness, your focus, and your energy. And then be, it's your responsibility to go and communicate, not yell, not because you were negligent or you allowed that to happen for so long. Document that so where you have a good grasp of it, and then go back and address it and say, hey, I know I'm changing. I'm making an adjustment. I'm going to change this. And then give people time to execute the new expectations, as opposed to getting angry or getting like, just because you woke up and became aware, you still have a responsibility to go reset those expectations. And just like you had patience, somebody had patience with you. Our moms and dads had patience with us when before we could eat ourselves, they fed us. And so I think, at least for me, it's helpful to see it through that lens of like, hey, how long have I let this go? How long have I allowed this to be an expectation? And then going back and being genuine with your preparation and presentation of like when you're going to deliver to someone like, hey, I'm now communicating to you new expectations. I'm not going to tolerate this anymore. And
Well, you also have a beautiful opportunity, and the beautiful opportunity is to practice what you preach. And what I mean by that is to you have an opportunity to show them what accountability looks like. Because the bet because I've had to have these conversations, and I've done them a myriad of ways, and the only way it's ever worked successfully, in my opinion, was when I came hat in hand and took full accountability for the situation, for how we got here, even for their actions, even though I didn't necessarily have to do that, but I was just doing it to where now I want to see what your character actually is
yeah,
and see because I'm already seeing that if I let you do something, you'll do it. Now, because the people that I really want in my corner are the ones that they won't let me disrespect myself, right? But those are rare. You have somebody like that in your life, do not let that person go because they only come like you may find one of those in your entire lifetime. So
well,
treasure that individual, but most people aren't going to be like that. And if you allow them to disrespect you, they're going to do that. If you allow them to take advantage of you, they're going to do that. So you have to keep that in mind, understand that, and then take accountability for the fact that you didn't have boundaries, you didn't have expectations, and you didn't enforce them.
Yep.
But moving forward, you need to do this for yourself. And if you want to stay in my life, you're going to respect that. And we're going to work together to fix this. And also, I'll help make sure that you are doing the same thing for yourself. And then we're going to do this in respect. And if you can't respect that, then I'll have to respectfully part ways from you at this time.
Yep.
But what's going to give you that highest probability of that conversation going well and getting the result that you want is starting hat in hand and taking full accountability for the part that was in your control.
Yep.
And then hopefully they will in return follow suit.
Yeah. And that is the leading us into our next section here, which is when Carter mentions hat in hand, I'm thinking of the word humility. And humility is it for my experience as a leader, humility is like my superpower. It, it the and I'll lead us off here with you cannot demand standards you don't personally live by. So um the reason segue us that way is like there are things I want others to do because I'm looking at results. And then I really look at and I'm like, yeah, I'm in the leadership position. I'm the one that's supposed to say something. But man, I go over here and look at my work and I'm like, I forgot this, 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 and this. And so the real juice there for me, and I haven't executed this well, but this is putting awareness to it, is the same way we forgive ourselves so quickly when we know like because for me, I forgot something, I'm frustrated in a moment, but I'm real quickly out of it. Like, I'm real quick to forgive myself and justify, like sometimes it takes longer, but o oftentimes I'm quick to be like, "Derek, that's unacceptable, but I understand how we got here. Change this, change that, and then, by the way, get a sense of urgency to clean this up." Well, do that when you go to someone you're leading. Like, give them like, I encourage that. Like, give them that same grace or give them that same, understanding that you just gave yourself. And then and that's something that I don't do a good job of. I am and a part of that is because it's not us, I think. I think it's not us. We're quick to judge, we're quick to throw, "Hey," and it feels like this is the 10th time, and it's like, "Is it? But is it the 10th time?" It might just be the 2nd. Unless you're very detailed and documented, and I'm using this to expound on humility about humility because the results are completely different. Like, when you go in there, without and forget humility, you're gonna have results from it. When you go in there with humility, like the hat in hand approach, the results are just very different. The experience is very different. And so, what would you say about going into the lead yourself first section?
Yeah, I mean, you can try to be the leader who says, "Do as I say, not as I do," but like that's never gonna work out for you. So you're literally just lying to yourself or trying to fool yourself that like that's gonna get you the results. You may get temporary results that way, but you're not gonna get sustainable long-term results that way. Because people are going to despise you. And I mean, and to be fair, the other way, that's also gonna happen as well. The people who don't want accountability, don't want to go on the growth journey, they're gonna find a way to make it to where you're the problem, not them. Um, no matter how much you practice accountability. But the biggest thing to be able to give you the highest probability of avoiding that, even with those individuals, is that every time you're addressing people, you remind yourself and be in the habit of starting off the conversation with what's your fault. And I something that I can definitely do a lot better at. I do it sometimes, but I definitely do not do it all the time. Or don't remember to do it all the time. But when I do remember to do it, I get results. So it's especially if you're going to go address something. And then even if somebody's addressing you on something, taking accountability for your part. But there's also situations where you do that or I've done that and they didn't hear you do it, and they still just wanted to like you're a dog or something and put your face in it. And then like they're not countering with what's their part as well. And so in those situations, I will draw my line um, there because that's not what we're doing. It should be a reciprocal thing. But as far as leading by example, if you want people to do these things, like you got to set the bar high and you better be hitting that bar um, yourself. And then if you're not, they should see you consistently adjusting and, making the necessary adjustments to overcome your setbacks or whatever. And so there needs like, you can still get grace just from being resilient. So even if you're falling short, but you're not giving up. You're not playing victim. You're not blaming others. You're taking accountability, and you're constantly switching up your approach. You can get a world of grace just from that aspect alone. And the biggest thing with this is controlling what's in your control, like we talked about last week, is paramount with leading by example. And so taking accountability for your part of stuff, what you can control, and then trying to execute at a high level of all the things that are in your control. And then if you want people to have high standards, you must have high standards. If you want people to go the extra mile, you must go the extra mile. Now, does it mean because you do those things, the people in your charge are going to also do them? No, no, it does not. It just increases your likelihood of that happening, as opposed to if you don't do it, you drastically decrease the likelihood of it happening. And then what I have found is you'll have a mixed bag. You'll have some that do, and it does make them want to work harder and work hard for you and have immense respect for you. And the other ones were never going to do it regardless. But to me, that like I'm good, and I don't think less of that person. Is just showing me where you're at in this season of life, and you're just not ready to go on to the next level, or you're not going to be able to stay on this journey with us. But I wish you the best, and I hope that things work out in whatever the time frame that they need to work out for you, because like this journey is something that you have to want,
Yeah.
because it is hard. It is not. I think people think it's like once they start this journey, like things are supposed to get easier or something, and like that's an illusion. Like that's not true.
No.
It does get easier in some aspects, but then the dial's turned up in other aspects.
Well, awareness is awareness as you as you uh become consistent at one thing. If you're on the growth journey, you become like your focus is on getting consistent at this thing or this repetition. And once you have it and you feel and you take inventory and you feel like you got it, or you do it more than you don't, not to say that you do it all the time, but you do it more than you don't, you're adding another thing. So it's like that's why this is a relentless journey that you have to love, because it is not easy. And again, like, be careful with that. I think just knowing that we do that is pretty powerful, because you can almost feel like a moment of like, yeah, that's what it is. It's not that I'm not getting better at anything. You're making some moves, but as you develop, you're becoming more aware of more things that you need to focus on. And so you have to have the baseline, like that's why we make such a big deal of all the things, because you can't it's not linear, and it's very complex. But how you attack a complex problem is simplify it, break it into sections, and then execute each section. And how you executed each section is going to determine what the whole looks like. And that's very much so simplifying, like, where I'm currently at on the journey is like it's a gauntlet. If you say it's a gauntlet, it's a gauntlet. If you say that it's a blessing and an opportunity, you start seeing it as an opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I've chosen to reduce the loop between like self-pity and self like doubt or shame, like when I got something wrong or I had a horrible experience, like I performed really poorly. I'm like, well, if I'm gonna lead us out of this, I have to like reduce that time. I can't sit there. So I don't ignore it. I deal with it. Analyze, evaluate where I could have done different, and then move.
And it's not bad that you feel shame. It's not bad that you feel any of those emotions. It's just not staying in them is the key. Like people think I hope nobody's hearing us say that you're not allowed to have doubt. You're not allowed like
They're all indicators.
we're not saying that. We're just saying you're not allowed to stay there. I mean, you can stay there, but if you do, like, don't be surprised of the results that you get. And like, you sure as heck can't blame anybody else. And you can pretty much pinpoint root cause. It's because you chose to stay in that energy and not get out of it.
And that's all that's a big deal there to like really highlight with everyone is that the all of the emotions are valid and they serve a purpose, but knowing what their purpose is paramount. They're indicators for you to have an indication, evaluate, and then move on. So if you're stuck on one of them and you're not using them, you're not able to feel the indication of the new data, that's what we're talking about.
like having the check engine light come up and then you just continue to drive for the next freaking 20,000 miles and with it on, or well, even if you make it that far, like, because eventually
Yeah.
the car's probably going to break down and then you're going to be like, what? What? Why the car break down?
Yeah.
Well, brother, I just pulled the diagnostics.
I've been on since May. Yeah, like, what's like yeah, but the thing is that seeing anger and shame and these things that we none of us wake up, or at least I don't, wake up and say, "Yeah, I wanna get so angry today."
Yeah, right.
But we do. There are moments where it just hits us, right? And it's like, the reason you were angry, cool, good. But let it be an indicator, let it be the check engine light, evaluate run the diagnostic on scanner, pull up the AutoZone, they have one, shout out AutoZone, but they'll tell you what's wrong and then take action to solve the problem of what did that, and sometimes it's them and sometimes it's you, and a lot of times it's a lot of both. But when you do that, and we call it work throughing it, when you work through it, you can actually kind of flush it and move on, but you move forward more equipped because now you're aware of like, hey, when I don't sleep, I'm less equipped to bring my best to the day. And so then what do you have to focus on? Sleep. And then you start stacking the bricks like, hey, when I eat well, and then we've talked about it in previous episodes, but that's why. But and again, I want to land there really that this all just increases your opportunity. You can get the optimal sleep and the optimal diet and be so focused on your state and awareness, focus and energy, and you can still fall short. But you're going to it's you're going to increase your odds and increase the probability of having the day you want or having the performance you want, getting the results you want if you're making sure to put focus and energy to those things.
And the biggest thing is making sure that, like, especially with being a leader, that when you are leading, like, you're not allowing people to, like, they can point out the things outside of their control, but, like, and then if that's all they say, like, you're not like, that's not okay. Like,
Oh, yeah.
we cannot be okay with that. We need to be, "Okay, well, hold on. Well, where's the things that are in your control? Like, well, hold on now. Look, what contributed to this?" And then people, like, get upset that you wanna format and, like, I should just be able to vent." I'm not Nobody said that you can't allowed you to do that, but that's all you did,
Right.
right? You're creating a bad habit is what they're missing. They're not hearing that part. You just created a bad habit, and then that leads down the path. It makes you more likely to become a victim because you're consistently practicing focusing on the things that are outside of your control,
Yeah.
and you're not practicing focusing on the things that are in your control, right? So
Which
what
is where we can actually do something.
Yeah.
because all that other stuff is not none of it it all is valid, but we can't do anything with it. And when we're talking, like when you're talking to someone in your charge, like I want to get through to the stuff we can act where we can actually make some moves, like where we can actually make some adjustments because these things are in our control. And there are problems where we're not saying that every problem always has those. Like there are some problems that reduce the things in your control, and and to me those are good because then if there's only 3 things in my control, now I can get really good at those 3 things
Yeah.
because there's 3 instead of 30.
Well, and good, right? And at the end of the whole point here is even if that's the case, like that, okay, cool, but that doesn't even necessarily matter. It's just getting the art and the practice down of shifting to the things that we can control and then being really good at that filter, at that process, at putting it through. Well, man, my state was kind of off. All right, why was it? Well, really didn't get good sleep last night. And then I ate that big meal before I went to bed. That probably didn't help. Okay, well then like okay, that's probably something that contributed to it. Okay, did I get my preparation in for this? Right? Did I
Yeah.
well, no. And then there are things like to where if you're constantly, because like I will tell you, like less sleep and like because I've been on this road for so long and I've tempered myself, I can actually still perform well and get away with that
Mm,
to a degree,
yeah.
which is another trap or another like thing that you got to overcome because it didn't like, that lack of sleep and not like that used to affect me more. It's like my awareness baseline is at a higher level to where even if I am in a lower energy, my awareness is still higher than what it was
'Cause you've worked that muscle.
when I started this journey. So like, but you have to be careful not to fall in that trap or rely on that and not push past that, right? Which is something that I struggle with from time to time as well. And so it's reminding myself that's why I like to go make myself do really hard things and things that like make me push my comfort zone. That's why I love rugby. Like I get a lot of reps at that every week and I'm around people that are willing to do it. And we all I think would do a pretty darn good job and especially to each other making sure that we're still, pushing those limits within healthy confines, and we're being smart about it, and we're hedging those risks and, like, working on ourselves and putting things in place to help minimize the risk of injury, getting hurt, making feel like 'cause
But we're still doing hard things.
but we're still doing hard things, precisely.
Yep.
And so that's one of the things that I absolutely love about it is it doesn't allow me to get, soft to a degree. It forces me to continue to keep pushing the envelope, which will allow me in other areas to have that muscle to push the envelope to where I'm more apt to do it. Because the less you do it, when it's time to do it, it's harder to do. So, but if you're consistently practicing and then the opportunity presents itself, but the opportunity comes with pushing the envelope, and if you're not used to doing that and then doing it properly, like we were saying with the hedges, then you've drastically decreased your chance of being able to seize that opportunity, and there's nobody else's fault but your own. And then
Yeah.
and it's learning to be okay with that and be like, "Okay, well, that's not gonna happen to me again, and then what can I do now to start practicing that?" And I'm not saying you need to go play rugby. Everybody's is
Just
different.
find your rugby.
Find your thing, yeah, for you to help you slowly, you know, continue to increase pushing the envelope and putting you in uncomfortable situations. I mean, hell, it could be as making sure that you're doing a damn cold plunge every day.
Yeah, it's just a thing to flex that muscle and
Correct.
stress that muscle to where you're doing something that you really don't wanna do,
Yep.
and you know there's pain associated or discomfort associated,
Yes.
but you're able to say, "We're doing it anyway."
Anyway, precisely.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to hit on that I clocked that I feel like we failed at and we may have lost some people on or misconstrued or that we didn't hit on enough, and we'll probably end up doing a whole episode on this, honestly. But is principles because we keep talking about the odds and the decision making framework and doing things that are going to give you the highest percentage. And so it sounds like, when I was listening to our podcast, it could be perceived as like we're only just focusing on what's going to give us growth or give us like, you know, a lot of money or whatever. And we were missing the framework. The other very important piece to the puzzle is once you figure out what you need to do to give you the highest probability to win, then before you execute it, you put it through the filter of the principles.
Correct.
Is it in line with your principles and your morals? If it's not, then you need to change the plan.
Yeah.
And that was a very important piece that I realized we were missing that we do all the time. We talk about it. It's almost as if we took it for granted. Like
Yeah.
we literally all of like with AI, our AI has our principles baked into it. Like when we're doing these, it tells me this one ties to this principle, it ties to that
Yeah.
principle, and we baked it in. So we like that is a framework that we use every day. I was just I think we
No,
yeah,
thanks for mentioning that because yeah, I forget that like my AIs are it's baked in, the principles are input into it.
yeah,
So it knows to check those. And then with that, we've reminded each other of like when we do the like "Oh, you could do that, Derek. You
yeah,
could and that's the sound of Derek's getting close to moving or like Derek's getting close to forgetting a principle right now. And it's like there it's like I mean, we could do that, but and then it's like when and then even myself, you know, the lead like trying to be a champion for the principles, like having a like we ironed those out. I mean, you created like you put them into words, but like we we took a lot of time to put all to choose those.
mhm,
And then they're in our fabric almost, but yeah, you that's why community is so important is and communication. So everybody's aware of the principles. And so you do have teammates that are going like, "Hey man, I see you're getting pretty close to that one." And then you're like, "Whoa, hold on. Hold the phone. Like pause for the cause. Am I?" And then you evaluate it. But yeah, that's a great point to make is that uh these this is the reason we're doing this too is because this is so complex. It is not linear.
yeah,
You can't just go hard at something and win. You have to rest. You like it's so complex, but I feel a strong purpose of saying, "Hey, it's so complex and there was so much I did not know before volunteering as a leader that I'm like, I wish there was something like this that I could watch weekly and get." And there is. There's you know, Jordan Peterson, the list goes on of people that you know, Tony Robbins has given us all the gold that we could handle to help us, but like that is the most important thing I could say today is that it is complex, and because it's complex, hang out with us, is what I'm saying. Because it's when you think, "I'll just do that and it'll change everything." No, sir. It's gonna change a few things, and then you gotta put it with that, and then you gotta put it with that. And then, because of that, it makes it a fun journey because when you do convert your brothers and sisters around you know that, like, because we're aware of what it took, there's, like, more to it. Like, you're like a head nod, like, "Dude, I knew you had to go to bed on time, get up on time, eat right." And then we're talking this is an indicator that we converted, but when you're doing all the things and you're making them aware, you start to recognize it means more. Like, it's like SEC football, it just means more. And so, we can move on to the next section. I just wanted to hit on that I encourage you that I say it with a ton of hope that leadership is complex, this journey is complex, and because of that, let's come together and share with each other all the little things that we do because what might seem minuscule to me might be the thing that someone needs today on their journey. Like it might have been 2 years ago for me, but it might be somebody's today. And so that's why I'm grateful to be able to do this, but I'm also hopeful that people will come and check us out week after week because it's not linear and it's not confined.
agreed. One last thing on the leading yourself part is hitting on why it's very important to also like do all the things that when nobody's looking, right? As far as the going to sleep on time, eating healthy, meditating, reading books, doing all the practices is because it's going to give you the highest probability of showing up and performing in that moment. The other reason is on test days or really hard days when the pressure is significantly increased and you never know necessarily when that day is gonna be. Sometimes you'll know from the day before that, like, "Hey, tomorrow's gonna be a tough one," right? But a lot of times, they catch you off guard, right? And you don't know that it's coming, and you better be ready, right? And there's nobody there coming to save you, and everybody's looking to you to figure out how to handle the situation and get the heck out of it. And whether you are able to rise to the occasion or not is predicated on what did you do the day before? What have you do the last couple months, right? What have you been developing? What have you been working on? Have you been tempering yourself? Have you been working through the tough stuff? So that way, when the pressure comes on, you're able to do what we talked about last week and be the calm within the storm and actually be able to execute. And so
Yeah.
pressure is where we get to see what somebody's made of, right? Because everybody can be the best version of themselves when things are easy and going good. It's really hard to still do that when things aren't going good and the crap is hitting the fan or the proverbial fan and you know there's you're on the clock and you need to make a decision quick
Yeah.
or it's going to be whatever the consequences are, and whether you're able to take that negative and turn it into a positive is predicated on what you've been doing for the last couple years, for the last night. And then if you failed, good, and then figure out why and don't blame others. Don't take the damn accountability and then start working to because I guarantee you, because all of those situations are actually opportunities. And then other like when opportunities come, like right now, like things we're in our busiest period, like things have really picked up for us, right? Which is awesome. It's absolute blessing. But the sales reps are struggling because they're like, man, there's a lot. I'm trying to get to everybody. And and we told them months ago that this day was going to come and that whether you're able to capitalize on this opportunity or not depends on the disciplines and the practices that you are executing during the slower months. Right? Are you getting your calendar down? Are you getting your tasking system down? Are you getting your discipline down? Have you been eating healthy? Have you been working out? Have you been reading the books? Have you
Are you sleeping?
are you
Like,
yeah.
do you have a sleep time?
And then do you have a good regiment with the family? Were you getting deposits in with them during that period because you knew this period was going to come and you were going to have to take some withdrawals? So do you have a flush bank account with the family?
Yeah.
Right? And then if you weren't doing all those things, when this day comes, it's gonna be really hard for you.
Yeah.
And it's all there is, and there's nobody else's fault but our own. Like,
And I wanna share
but good.
something. I wanna share something that really changed, not everything, but it changed this topic for me is, um and it's one word, and the way my brain works is I like to take and I try to simplify to get something. I'll say it like this, something I can hold on to. So something, and I say that because it's something when I'm having a conversation or I'm even whether it's when I'm reading a book or watching even a video or, watching other people that are doing this, and I get my gold nugget and it's my gold nugget, we call it the gold nugget, but it's something I can hold on to. I could take with me, throughout the week, throughout the month, maybe. Um, but what really something that was pivotal for me was asking myself the question, did the activities and the behaviors that I chose the last 30 days prepare me for the next 30 days? And that sounds really cliche, but like when you're in the heat, when you're in the thick of it and you get tossed or you get the waves crush you and you get to the shore and you stand up or whatever, whatever you feel like you're in. But it is just that simple. What you chose, no one forced you. What you chose to do with this 24 hours that you were given, however many of those were sleep, whatever you chose to put inside the tank from a health standpoint, whatever books you chose to read, whatever people you chose to be with, whatever activities you chose to partake in, all of those choices are yours. And that's something I want to empower all the listeners with, is that when I switched how I asked myself, how did I get here, to I chose those things, it was very, very, very empowering for me, because then it felt extremely hopeful on, like I said, the next 30 days is you can start choosing differently. Like, if you don't like the results or you don't like the experiences, you can begin to choose differently, little by little, meaning orange juice, water, just switch them. Sugar, water. And when you start thinking, for my brain, when I started thinking like that, it really started to give me a lot of confidence in, like, hey, I'm not there yet, but I'm headed, like, I'm on my way.
Well, and see, like, so instead of seeing it as sugar or orange juice and water, you see it as a percentage, right? This one is gonna maybe, but say it's not orange juice, say it's Coca-Cola or freaking what a
Yeah.
soda of some sorts, right? So it's a negative percentage. That's a
Mhm.
plus percentage. And then every day your decisions, you're either stacking negatives or positives.
Yep.
And then those positives are going towards the bank account of when shit hits the fan. Are you going to be able to rise to the occasion? Are you going to be able to perform? And it all goes back to how many positive and negative decisions did you make, right? So did you go to sleep? Like that's a percentage of negative 15% or whatever. And then you have your scale. And if you start seeing choices and decisions in that light, it changes everything.
Yeah. And it gamifies it to a degree where you can
Makes it
have
fun.
fun with it.
Yeah.
You can
Right.
have fun with it. You can, as excited as we get for our favorite football seasons right around the corner, I know my man across the table is fired up for some John Sumrall. I know he is, right? And I know there's a lot of people watching that are excited. Maybe we just got through with
Napier.
uh you did not, meh, I was not gonna go there. Love you, Billy. But maybe you just got through with a season, summer baseball season for your kids, and that was, you're like so fired up. But, like, man, get excited for you. Like, you're the starting quarterback of your life.
Hmm.
You're the head coach of your life. You are the, I mean, insert thing, like, man, as excited as we get for our children, for those that have children, as excited as we get for their first day of school or for their first football game or whatever their first thing is, what if you were that excited about you, like, you going to bed on time or whatever you put there? Like,
Yeah.
what if we were excited about ourselves and the things that we were gonna do and the people we could impact as we were for Gator football? Like, what if? Like, 'cause I'm fired up about it, and like, I'm partial to Kirby and the Dogs up in Athens, but I live here in Gainesville, and there's a lot of Gainesville love that, and I'm fired up. I would much rather see John Summerall have an awesome year, and I'm fired up, and you can't there's nothing that's gonna rock this city than that first Saturday, in the Swamp, and that is, like, I encourage people to stay excited for that first Saturday in the Swamp, but, like, let's start applying it to your leadership. Like, start applying it to how what kind of person, because you are that important, and that's the biggest thing that for, like, when I started thinking what I'm choosing, the plays I'm choosing to run determine how I'm gonna show up on the game, and I went on a run there, but the thing is that with these tools and the way we're explaining this stuff is how, because it is so complex and it's so hard, how you can gamify to give yourself a fighting chance.
Yeah.
Because, dude, a Coca-Cola is good.
Yeah.
Sugar is good. It's sweet. It's good. Like, no one can argue that. Um, but we also gotta look at the facts of how you feel after a Coca-Cola, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's no judgment. It's just like, dude, yeah, you are going to feel better the more water you drink.
Yeah.
And then don't stop there. It's the next thing, the next thing,
And
the
we're not
next thing.
saying that you can't treat yourself from time to time. You just got to be careful with it and be responsible, but it's something that you're consistently doing, or that's something that you're drinking all the time, or you're eating sweets all the time, then you have a problem. And if you can't practice moderation, then you may want to stay away from it for a time until you can build up the discipline to be able to do so.
Huh.
And it's less to do with the discipline. I heard something, I cannot remember who said it, but it was like either this morning or yesterday, and it was saying they were saying that discipline, you only need a small amount of discipline in the beginning. They say like if somebody's like consistently working out or whatever, we say, oh, they're disciplined. And they were countering that argument, and they were saying no, they were just a little bit of discipline in the beginning, and then after that, they were just good at doing it. They had formed a habit. It's no longer a discipline.
Yeah.
The discipline is getting to the point to where you form the habit.
Mhm.
And so they were saying it's less to do with the discipline and more to do with the habit. And so it's just focusing on doing the things to and getting good at forming habits, and then those habits are going to ultimately help if they're good habits, not bad habits. But if they're good habits, and what do we mean by good? Because we don't like, is that it's less to do with like that means you're a good person if you have this good habit. No, what I mean by good habit is that it is going to it's going to be a plus percentage towards the outcome that you're looking for instead of a negative percentage
Yeah.
taken away from your
So we're
ability
so we're
to
putting a deposit in the bank.
take
So we're putting money in the bank versus
instead
swiping the card to take money out the
to
bank.
take money out of the
And
bank.
that's all it is when you, because it's not good and
Good.
bad. And the other thing is it on mission?
Yeah.
Like, when you're running that filter, it's like, "Man,
On mission and apply with the principles.
is it checking my filters and is it on mission?" And then the thing is too, is just be careful with, like, it's okay if you miss, just know that you missed. Like, don't lie to yourself, don't lie to other people that you're saying that you love and care about, and act like, "Oh, somebody saw that I missed, and then I'm gonna." No, it's okay, you just missed, it's fine, you're a human being, you're trying, you're hitting way more than you miss, and wouldn't it be cool? Like, if my rifle's off, I'd much rather know that it was, like, a small thing I could adjust versus, like, throw the rifle away and have to buy a new one. So it's like, if you miss, just figure out why you missed and then reattack.
Correct.
So let's move on to, uh, ownership and accountability.
Yep.
So, you wanna open us up there?
Yeah. So taking responsibility without taking blame for everything.
Oh, you might wanna say that one again.
Yep, taking responsibility without taking blame for everything. So how do you do that? How do you pull that off? Well, it's like what we were talking about earlier. I'm going to come in and I'm going to take accountability for my part. And then I expect you to follow suit and do your part. And then if you don't, I'm not letting you off the hook. We're going to be like, hey, I just took accountability for my part. It's your turn. If we're going to do this together, that is what is required.
Right.
That is step one. Once we get that out of the way, now we can work on putting solutions in place to address those things, right?
To address
But
both sides.
but we can't get there until
We acknowledge it.
we both do it. I started it off, and now it is your turn as well, because just like the same thing, we were like coaches, they ultimately they do get fired, but the players to a degree also do have blame in it as well, but we put most of it on the person who's in
On
charge.
the leadership
So
position.
they do bear more of the weight than say the people that are in their charge. But to say that the people in their charge don't bear any weight, that's not fair either. And nor would I say that that's right either. Because they most certainly do. They most certainly do have a responsibility. And then where actually you find your championship teams come from. If you do research and you talk to people like Nick Saban, you find a common theme in those championship teams, which is the leadership council. The player leadership was actually extremely strong on the championship team. So it wasn't even Nick Saban, it was the players themselves. So they flipped that paradigm upside down, and that's actually what is required to win a championship. So it's an interesting thought. So we like to put it all on the coach, but if you actually want to win a championship, the players are the ones that need to step up. The players are the ones that need to hold each other accountable and not let the players go out and party. If you watch the documentary on the Gators during the Urban Meyer era, right? On Friday nights, they were at the gym working out as a team. And Urban didn't make them do that. The players did that. The leadership council did that.
Yeah.
They did that on their own. That was something that they wanted to do. And then you saw the results that came from it, right?
Yeah.
So we can put it all on the leader, but if you want great results, it can't all be on the leader. And so just a pushback on that. But the leader, at the end of the day, when it's them, they still have to take accountability at the end of the day for their part, because anything other than that doesn't serve them. It doesn't help them.
Yeah, it's not in your control. So what's
But it does not mean that, like, you can put it all on that person if you want to as the player, but that's not the truth. That's not the truth, because because now you're not asking yourself, well, were there things that I could have done?
and there always is.
Yes.
And there
And that's all we're asking.
yeah,
Is that we do that.
yeah.
And it ain't gotta be putting your face in it, or it's literally just taking accountability. And accountability goes both ways across the board. Everybody has their part. But when you sign up for leadership, your accountability weight is greater than theirs, but
Yeah.
they still hold weight. And I think that's what this question and this um, framework is pointing out and is wanting to put in perspective. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do with this podcast, is help hold frame of the totality of the growth process and what goes into it, and giving perspective on it, and to where we're looking at it through a proper lens instead of a victim lens, or it's too hard lens, or anything other than understanding the process, it moving the weight, it feeling more fun and like a game, and understanding that it's a game and seeing it that way, and then going about it in the joy and the passion that we have for the games that we love.
Exactly. Yeah, well said. That was very well said. Very well said. So, something here, taking responsibility without taking blame for everything, that bullet right there, you just hit on it, but, like, that's critical, and again, I'm just gonna short and sweet this. Analyze the situation and, um, take what's yours and get to work.
Yep.
Like, take what's yours and get to work. If there's I put a video out on my Facebook this morning, but man, if you're reflecting and truly looking for, because you're gonna find what you're looking for. If you're truly looking for your part completely, like, hey, what's in my control here? At least for me, and I don't think I'm the world's worst human being, but there's always, and this is where I'm gonna throw an absolute, there is oftentimes and real close to always so much Derek King needs to work on that it is intentional intentional for me to continue to, or to begin to talk about the things outside of my control. Like, I'm choosing inside here, I'm choosing to talk about those things and avoid the things that I can work on, because, brother, my list is long of, like, did I go to bed on time? Nope. Is it better than it used to be? I used to go all night and then Red Bull it in the morning and go again. And then I would just know that, like, the body is going to give out at some point. And that was my standard of myself. I was like, when Derek falls asleep, is when I'm tired. And you can push your body. That is not your best. That is not my best. But to say just because I did better than I used to doesn't mean I did my best. Doesn't mean I held the standard. And then um and that's really that part there that I just want all leaders to hear, as I'm right there locked arms with you, suffering alongside you, that uh you know, you look for your part, you'll find it. And then as a leader, it's your responsibility to also help others build their list in a way that doesn't shame them, that's not disrespectful, but you've done this before. Maybe they haven't. So maybe take a moment and go, and then the best way, or a really effective way, is like when they see you making your list and you're taking your accountability, you're leading them. Like, not controlling them, you're leading them. So what might they do? They might pull out a piece of paper also and start working on their list. And if they aren't, they need that little nudge of encouragement, or they need that, let's call it what it is. They need that leadership to pull out their paper, and then they need some coaching, not disrespect, coaching on, "Hey man, what are you working on? I'm writing out my list of the stuff that's in my control that could have increased our odds." And then it's not done in disrespect, and I think that's, at least for me, reflecting, before prepping for this episode, I was like, "Man, it's very evident to me, the situations where I've walked away feeling defeated is where I really didn't do a good job of Derek taking accountability and responsibility." And I tried to and then on the flip side, I've also walked away where I took all the blame on everything, was like, I didn't allow any room for it to be anyone else's responsibility, and I felt hopeless after that too. So, working on that, taking responsibility without taking blame, it's a muscle, something you gotta work on. And knowing it's a muscle, that's something you gotta work on, gives you a lot of hope, because you know that you're gonna get it wrong, you're gonna get it out of balance, you're gonna get it in balance, and then when you find balance and you truly can say you nailed it, then ask yourself why, try to do that as often as you can.
Well, I think the most important thing, and I try really hard to get this point across, and maybe like I feel like I'm about to finally put it in words that can be fully understood, is it's okay to mess up. Like, all of that's fine. The part that I miss people on, and I really struggle with, is I feel very strongly about the formula. So as long as you're executing the formula, then you're good, right? And what I mean by that is, it's not that you're not allowed to make a mistake, it's how you made the mistake. It's how you responded to the mistake. People are thinking that they're saying that I'm saying they couldn't make a mistake, and so I'm constantly pointing out their mistakes. It's not that. It's I shouldn't even be pointing it out. You should be bringing them to me and then telling me what you're doing to work on them, to address them, and to improve. I could have done this better. Man, I really didn't like that. And so this is the plan. And then check back up on me on this and hold me accountable to these things. Right? That's the formula. That's If you're not executing the formula, then you're not going to get to where you're at. And then you're more susceptible to playing victim, blaming others, distracting yourself. Because another thing that people like to do is go and instead of addressing the things that the elephant in the room, or the thing that is causing the pain, we'll go find something that we're good at and go do it so we can get a win.
Oh, yeah.
And
I'm, like, probably champion at that.
you were pretty good at that.
I'm champion. I got the WWE super heavyweight title. I probably botched that, but of avoidant. Like, I'll go get me a win quick, son. I start getting hit in the mouth, I'll go find a distraction and get me a win real quick.
Yeah.
And all the while, the thing that's really calling, like the next level that's calling my name, is super low.
But I'm glad you said that. So here's where the win actually is. We need to shift that. The win is in executing the formula
Mm,
and
yeah.
getting good at executing the formula and remembering to execute the formula. And that's where the win comes in. That's where the victory comes in. And that's the people who have less friction with me are the ones that execute that are taking accountability, that do point out, like, because you're not about to do that in front of me. Like, we're not doing that. Like, if we're going to work together, that is my standard, and I'm not going to budge on it. And people get mad about that. But I set those expectations. I didn't like. Would you think I was lying? Like, I mean what I say, and I know that's not
No,
necessarily
and people, and I'll stop there.
normal.
People, that is it though. There's the juice. It's people don't think you're lying. I mean, I'm guilty of this, so I can say it with a lot of with a ton of passion. It's rare that people, because a lot of people are saying a lot of stuff, and then it's like when you actually like hold people accountable to it, there's so much being said, and there's so many people in people's lives that have said stuff that sounded good and they didn't actually do it. And so it's just uncommon that, so like people aren't saying like even me, like subconsciously, I'm not like, I just heard what Carter said and immediately filtered it as, oh, that's dishonesty. That's not it at all. It's just like when it actually, when we actually follow the process, it's like it's different. And then that's why like people who um
Well, it's just
start to do it, like start to execute the formula themselves,
they're
now it
acting
becomes
surprised about it is what I'm like, where I'm
and that
confused, and I'm just like,
yeah.
well, why are we acting like that's what this is? I've said this like a bunch. Like, do you think I wasn't? Like, I told you I was going to do this when we got here, and this is what was going to happen. I set those expectations, and I am now following through on what I said, right? And that this is how we are going to move, and that this is how we're going to get to where we're going, and that we are not going to tolerate anything other than that because, and at the end of the day, there's nothing inherently wrong with the formula. The formula is the path and the method to be able to actually get to where you're trying to go. And so it's and we keep saying it's that we're hitting on that we messed up, and that's not what it is. And the full formula is addressing the issues, right? And then working on, as we address the issues, another piece that we can add in there is also addressing and acknowledging the things that we did good, bringing it into full balance,
Yeah.
into a full spectrum of like, hey, fell short here, but I did do well here. I did a lot better here than I did last time. Use some improvement, but these are the things where I really botched, right? And now I'm looking at the whole perspective, the whole picture, consistently repeating the formula.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then making that the goal, making that the attainment, and then getting really, really good at that. And then if we're all doing that, then we are going to be able to achieve things, great things at scale. But that, like, to me, that's the dang baseline. So if you can't even do the baseline, then you're not going to be able to run with us to the next leg. Like, you're not going to be able to make it to where we're trying to go
Yeah.
because you have no foundation to stand on. Your foundation is weak. It's going to crumble. It's going to break.
Yeah.
And so, because that formula is what's going to help you get through the really challenging and tough times that come with huge, audacious goals.
Yeah. Because the hits are coming.
Yeah, they're going to
It's
happen.
not there is you're going to get hit in the mouth. Like,
Yeah.
let's just cut that out as a short real quick. Like, if you wanna be in leadership, then, I used to say this as a joke, but, when people would give me a compliment, I'm like, "Yeah, it's like getting kicked in the face every day." It's not always, but there are days where it's like getting kicked in the face. So if you know you're gonna get kicked in the face, then it's not surprising. That's what you signed up for. Now, if you could figure out a way to not get kicked as hard, or figure out a way to, like, wear a face shield, if you know it, like, that's
Or
what
you can hedge the
you
risk.
can hedge the risk. So if you know you're gonna get kicked in the face, then how cool would it be if you wore a helmet?
Smarter, not harder. Yeah, and accounting for it and being aware of it. And but the biggest thing is that I guess I'm saying is like is not being surprised that you got kicked in the face.
Yeah.
Like, I don't that's the thing that, like, I don't understand, like, people and they're being genuine. I'm just like, "How did you like, why are you like, hey, snap out of it. Like,
Yeah.
get it together. Like, hey, I need you back here with me right now. You're somewhere else." Like,
Yeah. And I think also not reading too much. I think you said something very important, and but I do encourage us to say it, like, maybe with a little more enthusiasm, that, like, if the people if there are people in your life or in your charge that, um, they're not listening to the music or they're not interested, like, and it's very evident through their behaviors that they're not interested, like, that is the answer. Like, it's not on you to inspire them. It's not it's on like, it you can try and you can give people a taste or give people a little bit of grace, like, "Hey, man, remember the gym? Remember? Hey, hey, it's 5:30. Are you up? Hey, don't forget to go to bed tonight, dude. Like, don't stay up all night." But, like, after you do that for a little bit, if people aren't self-managing and they're not drinking the Kool-Aid or drinking all the insert anything you can about buying in, like, do you think Nick Saban in his best years when players got to campus, do you think he gave them a whole lot of time to, I don't imagine Nick Saban, I wasn't there, but I don't imagine that he, like, sat the players down and said, "Hey, if you don't mind, we're gonna try to do it this way." He probably didn't. He probably talked to him with respect, but there was regiment, he probably told him, "Hey, don't know where you came from, but I would just imagine it sounded something like, I don't know where you came from, don't know how you did it, but here's how we do it at Alabama." And then they got maybe the first week, I would assume, there might be a little bit of grace, like, "Hey, you were a little late," but there probably was some sort of corrective measure for those people, and then that's how you have buy-in, like, that people but I share that because I'm kinda talking to myself 2, 3 years ago. There's somebody out there that's was in a similar situation, green in leadership, and, like, people don't if it's something people wanna do, they don't need a whole lot of inspiration. And so we can wear ourselves out as leaders, and you guys can beat me up in the comments on this, but you can wear yourself out trying to inspire someone to do something that they flat out don't wanna do, and the reality is, be very careful, be very intentional, ask good questions, right? And then, uh, allow your people to find you, because like, when you pour a bunch out of the cup to people that ain't drinking it, you wear yourself out. So I just encourage you. That sounds harsh. That's gonna be a less loving version of me, but I'm good with it. I'm stamping it. Uh, like, you can coach, but, like, coaches ain't beggars. So we're not fixing to beg you to go to bed on time. You're either gonna go to bed on time and be able to perform, or you're not. And then if there's an anomaly or there's a situation, that like we've had people who maybe struggling with alcoholism or drug addiction or whatever, and we're actually when we find that out, what do we do?
we give them the opportunity to change, but we give them a strict, like, guideline. Like, if you break it, like, we're gonna have to move on from you. Like, there's, like, no you gave us no choice at that point because
But
we're not going to tolerate it either. But we're gonna
but
get
out the gate, there's a blanket of grace, like,
there's
"Hey,
yeah,
brother."
you're still gonna get you're not immediately fired, especially if, like, the juice appears to be worth the
That
squeeze.
yeah.
Then we're gonna give you the opportunity to turn it around, and then what you do with that opportunity is on you at that point. The ball's
Yeah.
back in your court, and then if
But we're not gonna lower the standard.
if you choose to go back, then we're gonna hold the line, and you
Yeah.
gotta go, no
But
matter who you are.
But the piece there too is, like, when you identify those exceptions, immediately love that person, man. Try to love them through it.
Well, and there's a great example of when, like, so one of the questions here is when is grace appropriate versus when continued tolerance becomes poor leadership?
Uh,
That's
the one I would like to use is if as we when we've identified that people are going through it, and we realize that, like, hey, they're truly going through it, just like I've went through it, and just like you've went through it, and we realize that, hey, right now life just might be whooping them a little more than, like, it might just be hitting them a little harder on some angles that we're not involved in. And because we identify it and we're now made aware of it, we try to say, hey, normally when people leave here, it's that's them and them. That's like when you go to bed ain't really my business. That's kind of your business, right? But on the personal side, when we identify that people are getting beat up, that's to me when grace is appropriate. Like like when you can relate and go, man, they just lost a family member, or
Yeah, but it's so it doesn't turn into tolerance and become poor leadership. Then that grace is married with expectations and boundaries, right?
a plan and a system.
And you have to enforce those expectations and those boundaries. And the system is just how you monitor it, how you go about it. What's the check-in? How did you go about implementing whatever the the expectations are, the boundaries,
Yep.
and then you that's once that's done, now the ball's back in their court, and then you just respond accordingly to what we agreed to, whatever that is. Whatever it is that we agreed, but I'm giving you grace. But what's not gonna happen is you're not gonna just sit in it and do nothing about it. If you're gonna stay here and you want the grace, then you're gonna put action towards this and we're gonna do something about it. And then the
Yeah.
moment that you choose not to do that, you choose to be a victim or you choose to blame others or not take accountability is the moment that you can't stay here.
And what you're actually asking a leader to do, if you're that person, like if you're the person that's going through it, or what you're actually doing as a leader, let me say it both ways, is if you tolerate it past the point of the plan, you're now changing the standard for the whole organization.
Yep. And
So let's say it
you
like
set
that.
precedent.
If the person needs grace and they get grace, good. I think that's you have a responsibility to help those weaker, or that are going through it,
And
like,
that are trying to help
and
themselves.
that are, yeah. But when you if they if that person,
The moment you're not trying to help yourself is the moment where I'm out
yeah, I can't do anything with that,
because now I'm hurting myself and those around me.
and I'm changing my standards to fit your desires,
And
which is,
I'm trying to be liked and
yeah.
not respected.
But at the baseline, it's like, are you willing to change the standards to accept this behavior? Yes or no? As a leader, if you answer yes,
You just open up a can.
you just open up a can of worms. You might as well forget the standards at that point.
Yep.
But when I think as a leader, when you can write it down like that, or you have it, writing it down is just where I'm at, bro. I gotta write stuff down. But when you can start thinking in those terms of like, cause what'll get me is the wanting to be liked, and also knowing life's hit me in the gut before. So I can relate real quick to somebody going through it, because I remember how it felt when I went through it, and I can get down there on my knees with them and relate so well. But the other thing that I have to remember is we do have standards.
Yep.
And if I'm gonna create a plan, a rehabilitation plan, and then we're gonna execute it. We're gonna stick to it. And to answer that question, continued tolerance becomes poor leadership when the person tries to get you to change the standard. Because if you have a game plan and you communicate that to everybody else, and everyone else signs off and goes, wow, I'm actually, that's pretty cool. Because now that actually builds I think that actually invests as a deposit into culture, because people know they're allowed to fall short, or they're allowed to slip, and they're not just gonna get thrown to the wolves. So they can, even if they're not planning on having a bout with alcoholism, it's like, hey, that's pretty cool that we tried to help him through it, versus just throw him to the wolves after all these days where he didn't have an alcohol problem. But I think you actually strengthen an organization when you do that. But to to put a fair answer to it, when you have to change the standard, or the person stops helping themselves, or they don't want to help themselves, that's where you give grace in a different way, man. You just set the boundary, and then you you switch gears and you go, hey,
No, love you from afar.
I'll love you from over here,
Yeah.
and you can ask me for help, and I get and the key there is you can ask me for help, don't expect me for help.
Yeah.
Because if you ask me, I get the opportunity to say no.
Right.
If you expect it, like if you're in my organization, I feel a responsibility to make sure you have what you need. Well, if I set the boundary, get you over there, it's like, hey, bro, you're gonna catch me on Saturday. Because I gotta serve these people. These people are going to war. I gotta serve them Monday through Friday. If I can get to you Saturday, as long as one of them ain't hurt, as long as one of them don't need me, my heart might help you Saturday. But you don't get priority. You don't get sit in first class if you didn't pay for the ticket.
Yeah. And then where people get hung up is they see that as not loving people, and now you're being an a-hole and you don't care, and that's what people try to uh cast when you're upholding a standard and you're not tolerating that behavior. And like, once you've done both ways, you see that, like, the other one is detrimental to you and those around you, and now you're allowing a single person to bring a whole organization and a whole group of people down.
Yeah.
And you as the leader, you can't allow that to happen, but you still do need to love people. You still do need to have grace. So it's having a systematic approach of how you go about it. And then the proper way, in my opinion, is addressing the problem, doing it with love, also showing them that you understand how they can get there by telling them your own stories or how you can relate in some shape, form, or fashion. And then stating, in those situations for me, I had to take control of what was in my control and take accountability of my part. And I had to do my part in order to get help, because people are not going to help you unless you're helping yourself, nor should they, in my opinion,
No.
right? Because then you're clearly not ready for the help. It's no different than the saying, you can lead a horse to the water, but you can't make the horse drink the water. They have to be ready to help themselves. They have to be ready to drink the water. And so that part is now back on them. And then when they make their unwillingness to drink the water or to take accountability or help themselves your problem, well, now we're wanting to play a victim, and we are trying to shift blame when there should be nothing to do with shifting blame, and more about just identifying the problem, putting a solution in place, and then focusing on executing that solution, and putting energy towards being a part of the solution, not the problem, and helping ourselves. But we have to help ourselves first in order to get help, and not allowing people to demonize you or put you in a box of you're an a-hole or you don't love people, when people aren't trying to take accountability and follow the process or adhere to the standards that we agree to, right?
Yeah.
So,
And that's a test.
yeah,
That's a test for our leaders out there. That's a test that, and because with this come you need to be putting focus on your discernment. You need to be, and I know you are, and I'm talking to you because you're in this room, but I'm talking to you. Like, man, be selfish with your. Am I good at discernment? Am I what? Like you, because that's who we're talking to, right? Is like people who are doing that. So when you do discern and you say, I could have done that a little different, or I could have done that a little different. But man, I keep coming back to, like, I tried this, the beans, green, tomatoes, potatoes, chicken, bacon, ham. Like, you tried all these things to get people to get on board, and they didn't. Give yourself grace too, just like we talked about earlier in the episode. Like, give yourself grace on that, and do not take that bait that take accountability for those parts you talked about before, the beans and the greens and the tomatoes, the things you actually could have done different, and then the people that are here, you execute that. But don't let the test cause you to fail when that they said those jabs, or those like those walk away lines where it's just like, yeah.
and why do those happen? Those happen because, and that's where most people aren't taking. Because I hear, like, they're like, "Well, I did try. Well, it's just nothing's good enough." nothing's good enough.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you're missing. That's not what what oftentimes is it's more of how you're choosing to respond to the situation, right? Is
Boom.
the part that you're missing. And you're wanting to stay in resentment, you're wanting to stay in anger, right? And you're wanting to stay in victim.
And
Well,
those ain't serving nobody.
and so we cannot do that. Like the standard says that's not, we're not saying that you can't have a moment of it, right? But what we're saying is you cannot stay there. It's the staying there, and it's the choosing to stay in the energy, because then if you stay in that energy, then you're going to consistently continue to respond in a negative manner, in a way that is an outburst, or to where you're not able to take that criticism, or you start deflecting and you start hurling out attacks. And even when the person started off the conversation, taking accountability.
Yeah. We're not gonna operate out of that energy, which is where you're saying stay in it.
Yeah.
But, like, we're not gonna you can get angry, but we're not gonna operate out of anger.
Yeah.
Like, that can't, and that's the sen so just I'm just giving the audience a different way to say it, like, that ain't gonna happen.
Or resent.
Like, and that's also why you're saying, or that's also for our leaders, that's why they're saying the walk away, I call them the walk away jabs, where it's like, dude, they're still mad. Like, it's not that it's not like hopeless, like there's nothing you could do, but no, there's something you can do. Set a boundary.
Yep.
Like, I'm just gonna say it, and I'll take the heat. Like, I'll take the heat, bring it on, because I got the juice for it. There is an action that you can do as a leader, which is set a boundary and then pour into those horses that are grateful for the water, and then you don't even need to tell them to drink.
Yeah.
They smell water, bro, and they're like,
And the reason they're responding that way is because they're not doing the work when they're not around.
exactly.
And it's evident, because if you were, you would be able to sit in the pocket. You would be able to work.
Even if you struggle, you'd be able to struggle well.
Yes, but
Yeah.
you're not, because you clearly, so even if you can try to say that you are, but
What
when
does
test
that
day
say,
comes,
Carter? Proof's in the pudding.
proof is in the pudding. When the time comes, we can be like, "No, there's no way." It's so back. I always struggled with staying consistent with working out, because and I would do really well if I had a workout partner. But the moment that person fell off, I allowed that to cause me to fall off. My fault, not them. 100% a Carter problem, but it was a thing for whatever reason. It's a thing. But plug in rugby, all of a sudden not a problem anymore. And what helped me overcome it was, this is going back to our point, is when I'm at practice, the team's gonna know. They're gonna know if I've been working out. They're gonna know if I'm conditioning. They're gonna know, right? So there's no, just because they're not there with me, when it's time to show up, they know. So the same thing with keeping and holding resentment or anger. We're gonna know if you're actually doing the work. You can tell us that you are, but when it's game time,
Yeah.
we're gonna know if you were, and because we're doing it, we know you should at least be struggling well, and we're not even seeing you struggle well. Then you clearly can't be doing the work, and I can't make you do the work, right? I can't make
Yeah,
you.
because you got to
I
do that on
can't
your own
control
time.
you what you do, but I can hold you accountable to the results and to your performance when it's game day. I can hold you accountable to that, and then whether you want to hear or not, what what dictates how you perform, that's a you thing.
Yeah.
And if you think that's not true, okay, cool, but then explain your performance. And then what are you going to do? What is your solution outside of what I'm telling you then to fix it? Because so far what you're doing ain't working.
Right.
So are we trying to solve? Are we trying to help ourselves though? Does it look like it? Okay, well then there's our clear line. We're gonna need to move on.
Yeah. And I say I've struggled with it, but that's where I say, as a leader, get it, just we've talked about it here recently, like reducing that loop. Like, but input, like, write down if you have your principles, but, like, use the principles. And then that way you don't fall into the trap that where
That's
people
what keeps you on the
where
path.
people set traps for you, but then also where you can say, "Hey, is our system too harsh?" And it's like, well, ask the question. put love in there, put grace in there, put
Warmth.
yeah, like add some, that's what we're encouraging is like you don't, you get to create this. And if you think your point of view or your system is too harsh, then warm it up a bit. Put it back in the microwave.
Yep.
And then try that. And then if you think it's too warm or too hot, let it cool off a little bit. That's what we're saying. That's where the juice is, that you do have control. And when we're talking to our leaders today, that's what,
Just don't give up.
you got to keep throwing stuff at the wall.
And that's and mm, yes. So when the person is choosing resentment, anger, or to stay in the dang energy, they gave up.
Yeah, they went home.
They went home.
Yeah,
They're not being resilient.
Yeah.
They're not trying to find a solution. They're not staying in the pocket and as we said, struggling well.
Running for the hills.
And so clearly through your actions, whether you're going to verbalize it, you're going to verbalize and say it's all these other things, but your actions are like, I can see you. Like you can try to masquerade it as something else, but like I have eyes, I can see.
Yeah.
You clearly gave up.
And the thing is I'm encouraging, because I've held on to people too long, and learned a lot, and I'm grateful for it because I needed to. But I've held on to people too long where I was like, man, I'm gonna inspire them through this, and I got this. Because I'm like not wanting to give up on me, but really the truth is I'm not evaluating truly and looking like I want something to be true so bad. But the reality is, it's like I also know I have a lot of confidence that, like, when I do love people, I love people hard. And I'm not gonna change that.
Yep.
I'm not gonna stop loving people. I'm just gonna change
How you do it.
I'm gonna change what I tolerate, which means I'm gonna change my standards. I'm gonna change the way I communicate my standards. I'm gonna change the system that monitors the standards. And then it'll be really easy. It'll be easier to make decisions because there won't be a whole lot of lag time. There won't be a whole lot of doubt. Like,
Because
did I say this? Did I say that? It's like, no, you're either doing it or you're not.
the system helps ensure that you love consistently.
Boom. There you go. Boom. There you go.
All right. So with that, Derek, I want to segue into culture. Culture is a big thing with being a great leader, right? And so one of the things that can affect culture is favoritism, right? So how do you balance the dichotomy between favoritism and earned trust?
Today, I do a lot better job. In the earlier years of True Force, it was I struggled with that. Like, I struggled with being able to even put those words to it. But it's very black and white. Like, it's very, to me now, it's very clear. It's like, do has this favoritism is not substantiating what I'm about to do with a historical event, and then earned trust is the exact opposite of that. So, like, with, to use you as an easy example, if there's something similar to what I'm like trusting you with, and it's but you've done all these things, then it's like, hey, I'm trusting, you know, I'll trust Carter with this because I have no reason not to, because it's earned trust. There's a historical behavior, a historical event that I can associate to the why to justify. Like, if I ask myself, is that very question, is this favoritism or is this earned trust? And it's like, it's evident. If you can tie it to a historical event, then to me, it's earned trust. If you are tying it to a hopeful future event, I think it's favoritism. And I'm guilty of both, but I discern them that way. Is like, with like, one thing with the way I'm wired is like the shiny new object. So we get a new rep onboarded here, and I want them to be successful so bad. And then I have to be cautious of that, because I want to twofold. I want to see what they're made of. So I want to squeeze them. I want to give them opportunities to where we can see what we need to work with, see how they handle it. So part of that is justified, but then it just is discernment. You have to, they haven't proven that they deserve, the Derek relationship lead. So why wouldn't I give that to someone who already has earned trust? That's a fair question to ask. So I mean, you helped me with that a lot. But in the pod, the question, I find it very easy. It's is this a hopeful future or an earned past? And that's kind of where I try to simplify it because that helps me. What do you think? How do you discern it?
Well, I'm gonna, like I do similarly with most things, I'm going to take a systematic approach to it, and then I'm going to put it through filters, right? And a filter that you can put it through is, am I providing favoritism or am I doing it based off merit, right? Because
But
earned trust to me is merit, right? So do you have you earned the merit to garner that trust, right? Because if you start giving out trust to people who maybe to everybody else hasn't earned it yet, then you're taking withdrawals from those people, and they're saying that merit doesn't matter, and then that's a slippery slope. Like,
yeah, and that sounds a lot like favoritism.
and it does, and so, and I've been in organizations where they are run that way, and it was not fun being in those organizations.
Mm.
So I don't want to be the contributor to that either. So, and it's easy to get uh hung up in that or to get put in that box. Now, something that I would say that can happen is when you are giving somebody favoritism, but it's actually predicated on merit, but the people who are calling it favoritism aren't wanting to see the merit in which
Yeah.
it was done, right? Then,
What does a good leader do though in that situation?
well, we would unpack it. Is
We
what,
we address it, right?
yeah. Well, you're gonna address it. You're gonna unpack it, and you're gonna. I think at that point, you put on your therapist hat or your, um, to where you're coming from more of a curiosity state, like, "Help me understand why you're saying that." "Alright, well, let's break this down." "Okay. Well, alright, let's look at their history. Well, have they done well at this?"
Yeah.
"Okay." And so, and then that way, they now come to that conclusion that there was merit instead of you telling them,
Yeah.
right? And so that would be that's just another approach that's gonna give you the highest probability of getting you the outcome that you're looking for. It doesn't mean it's gonna work, because it could still backfire, and that person don't wanna hear it, don't really care, but there's the sign right there as well. That's how they choose to handle that situation. Probably not a good fit, probably not gonna be good for your culture, and it's probably time to move on from that person.
But you would want to know that though.
Yeah.
You so like you use that rep as
It's
a
gonna give you an opportunity to expose that person and
yeah.
to see, "Oh, this is what I got. Okay, cool. Glad I know this now. Didn't know that before. Now I do, so I'm actually glad this happened."
Yeah.
But it's also being able to confirm the biggest thing with making decisions and what you say with discernment, because that's what this all boils down to, of whether it's favoritism or merit or earned trust, is, can you speak to it? Right? And I had to learn that in the insurance world. Everything that we did, we had to be able to speak to it. And I was literally sending out, probably 250,000 dollars in payments every day. That's a lot of money,
Yeah.
right? And so with that, I had to be able to speak to every single thing that I sent out. Well, I can't remember like every claim that I paid on. So that's why documentation and notes were paramount. So I could go back and see what my thought process was, why I did what I did. And it should be to where you can go look at that and you don't even need me.
Yeah.
It's clear as day. It's
This is
right
what I was
there. It's broken
thinking.
down. So that whole process taught me to be very good at being able to speak to what I'm doing and being able to provide a logical argument and breakdown to how I came to this conclusion. Doesn't mean that it's right, but as long as in the insurance world, as long as it makes sense and I can see why you drew that conclusion, I'm not going to be mad at you. Now, if I can see that you're trying to do some kind of agenda, there's BS, or you just put some nonsense in there and it's not substantiated by any facts and there's not a logical um, pathway to a conclusion, now we have a problem, right? We're going to break down and we're going to unpack the fallacy in your argument, right? So, but as long as you can confidently speak to something, then that's the most important thing. So, before I make decisions, I'm always locking in, do I feel confident that if I am questioned, I can stand there confidently and speak to what I did? If the answer is yes, then I send it. If the answer is no, then I need to figure out why is the answer no, and I'm not ready to send it yet.
Yeah.
So same thing with giving somebody something or handing them up an important lead or an important task or whatever. I'm going to put it through that scrutiny. I'm going to take a systematic approach to it. And then If when I'm done, I put it through the filter of, yes, I feel like I can speak to this. If questioned, then now I know I'm ready to send it.
Yeah. And another piece there too, just to hit on it, as we dive into like one of our biggest important one of our most important filters that we use,
Oh yeah.
but is but to put a little cherry on top of what of everything Carter just said is that you're not gonna please everyone, right?
No.
But what I wanna equip you with and something I struggled with, Carter came here as far as to True Force with this, already there, but he had to let me warm up to like, he had to be patient enough to let me grow, because I really didn't wanna handle situations like this. I'd rather just stay mad for 6 weeks, at in the early when he first got here, but, um you're not gonna please everybody, and then what he just said, your people should be able to do too, and if they can't, that is the juice. That is what needs to be taught and what needs to be shared is, "Hey, you have to be able to speak to what you did."
Yeah.
So if you got somebody that's in avoidant behavior, don't wanna speak to something, or when you go to explain something, they don't wanna hear it, get those people out of your organization fast and just and deal with it. You'll be fine, but get them out fast, because those that's that right there, the being able to speak to what you did is baseline, that's respect 101. Like
100%. And it don't mean that I'm going to agree with your decision, but as long as you can speak to it and I can see how you came to that conclusion, I'm like, hey, I can see why you did that. Now let's
we can tweak this and tweak that, but at least I know that
let
we
me, and then maybe you were just missing some information. Let
boom.
me provide that. And now that changes your answer. And then as long as we learn from it, we're on the same page. Now we're communicating respectfully. We are unpacking stuff. You were able to confidently be able to speak to what you did. I have confidence in you. I don't feel like you're incompetent. And now you just got another merit check in my book.
Yeah.
Even if you got the wrong answer, I still have confidence in you that in the future that you're going to learn from this and you know how to systematically work because there's been people on our team that have done that, came back, still got the wrong answer, but I wasn't mad at them because they were able to they walked me through their all the check downs and all the
How they got there.
how they got there. I
Yeah.
went talk to this person. I went and did this. Like they didn't just send it. I'm like, okay, you tried extremely hard to get the and then typically in those situations, what they did, they still did hedge the risk. And so it didn't really hurt us that bad. It still hurt us, but because they did all that, they did cut the risk or the degree of which it hurt us in half,
Yeah.
which I can't be mad about that.
No, and we see a future with that because it's like, hey,
Exactly.
you're using the variables. Now, if we change out a couple variables, you're gonna have different you're gonna have different results in it, but there it feels like there's a future because you're like, hey, you're at least using the formula. Now we just got to get the right signs in the right places.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about protecting the company, customer, and employees simultaneously.
Yep.
What does that mean to you?
That is the final filter to me. Like, so there's a
Yep.
lot of filters that decisions get put through, but that one right there is the final one, right? So if it checks 2 of the 3 boxes, then can't send it. It's gotta check all 3, right?
Yeah.
And so it means that it is a must, not a should, that we take care of our customer, provide the best possible experience we can to them, right? And then we take care of the company because without the company, we can't take care of the customer or the employees, right? So, but a lot of times you see to where it's just take care of the company and say that we take care of the customer and the employees, but not actually do it,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So, no, we need to actually not just say these things, we need to actually do them. And then when it comes to the employee, we need to actually take care of the employee. But that also, all of these need to come with boundaries.
For sure.
They all need to come with boundaries, and everybody has their part to play, including the company, right? So it all has its part, right? That it needs to be its side of the equation that it needs to hold up as well, right?
Mhm.
And so we need the employees to do their part in order for us to do our part, right? In order for the company to do its part. And then the same thing with customers, right? Not everybody is a customer, right? Not everybody's our customer. Some people, because we elect, we do reserve the right to choose to do business with people, or we have quite simply gave people their money back because we do not want to move forward with these people, with their project or how they're choosing to handle things, and we reserve that right, and we call it respectfully bowing out. I'm going to respectfully bow out of this project, not coming at you, not but like I don't see this ending well for either of us. So let's just go ahead and avoid this altogether.
Yeah.
All right.
And
All right.
and there was a moment though in those decisions, 'cause that's the opposite of that's the exception to the rule, but we ran it through the filter of, like, when we had that customer's deposit and carrying out the process, we did not see a effective way to make sure that we were protecting the company, the customer, and the employee.
Wait, yep.
So that's that filter in action, because and the point the juice there is that we run it through even when it like sometimes the answer is give customer money back
Yep.
because we're not wavering, like you said, like it has to make sense
But
for
if all we
everybody.
cared about was the company, then
We would
we wouldn't do that,
Yeah, we would just execute to and
or the bottom line, or the profit, and
we would just do the say part, not the do part.
yep.
And that's something to be we're talking about a business here, but that's something that is very paramount with like, it's easy to say, very challenging to do, but it's
Because you're gonna put the customer through that, and then you're also gonna put your employees through that.
right. And if we can't if but that's when you can get an organization thinking with those 3 variables and considering those 3 variables, sometimes if we have a pie, there are decisions that get made where sometimes the customer's got 50% of the pie,
Yeah.
and company and employee are splitting the other 50%. So it's 50, 25, 25. There's decisions that get made when we know that. But you know what? When you know that's the situation, we all communicate it and we execute that way. But the reality is what we're saying is we're always going to cut our pie with those 3, the company, the customer, the employees considered. And if it's a situation where the employee's side is looking pretty slim, we're gonna hold. If the company's taking way too much risk, we're gonna hold. And if the customer is not getting what we feel, what we discern is their fair shake and their appropriate, let's say it like that, their appropriate piece of the pie, then we're gonna reevaluate.
But if one side's taking too much from the other, then like what gets taken may have to come from just one of the 3 boxes,
Yeah.
right? Like say with a customer, right? They want us to do a job and hold all the risk, right? To where they don't pay the deposit. And then they also get to take 30 days to pay us and all of this. And then they don't want to compromise at all. Well, then that doesn't sound like it sounds like now employee and company are taking on 100% of the pie, and the customer has 0, right?
Yeah,
And
of
that's
the risk pie.
of the risk pie,
Yeah.
and that's not that is not balance, right? And there's times where we've agreed to, hey, in this situation, because there's going to be a repeatable business, we want to build a relationship. We're willing to take 75% of the risk pie. And then if you turn your nose up to 75% of the risk pie, well, then we can't do business together respectfully.
Yeah, and I'll even go a step further here is, like, everyone's or most people are very familiar with bank accounts, even if it's just your personal, even if you haven't ran a business, finance, if you're not in the finance sector of your business, um, but everyone's got a personal bank account, and that's a lot of what it helps me is, like, if you're gonna be out of balance to your employee,
You better have
you took a withdrawal. That's not a that's th that by
a
itself
bank
is
account.
not a bad is not always the
Yeah.
incorrect decision. But guess what? Next week, you can't forget that you took that withdrawal last week, and guess what? They're due,
A deposit.
a deposit.
Or if you took a withdrawal, you better hope that there was a flush bank account to where you've made an insane amount of deposits and you have not taken a withdrawal in a
No.
while. Then you may not necessarily be due another deposit because the bank
Y
account
you're
is
yeah,
lopsided.
you're way ahead, but the reality is again, back to what you just said before on the favoritism and earned trust is you gotta be able to speak to it,
Yep.
and that's all I implore with leaders. When you're leading, whether it's a husband leading a wife or you're a father leading a son or daughter, or you're on a team where you're in the leadership position, like, be able to speak to what you say. You're gonna gain so much respect, and you're gonna gain so much trust by being able to speak to it, because people don't expect perfection, but they do expect you to be able to speak to what you're doing.
Agreed.
So we
Let
can
let's segue into the next segment on leadership, which is very important piece and which I wholeheartedly believe should be the the gauge or the merit or the lens in which a great leader is judged upon, right? Which is, and we talked about it earlier with Nick Saban, is how good are you at developing leaders,
mm,
right? How many leaders have you developed, and then how many have gone on to be great leaders themselves, right? And so that's that to me is the gauge in which we should be viewing ourselves on of how well have we done, right?
yeah.
When we look back at our career or our journey or whatever you want to call it. So, with that, we're going to get into some key things that go into being able to be great at developing leaders, right? And some things that potential pitfalls that we need to make sure that we don't fall prey to, which number one is stop being the hero that solves everyone's problem. And we talked about this in a previous um, podcast, saying make sure that we're not being self serving and that we're not doing this because we want to boost our own ego and to feel good about ourselves because I'm able to solve. I'm the only, like, you can't do anything unless I'm here, right?
Yeah.
And sure, that feels good, but I'm telling you to shift the framework, and it should feel good if they're able to perform without you being there, because that actually means that you did a good job. That
Right.
means you empowered people, and you didn't teach people what to think, taught them how to think, right?
Say that again one time, Carter.
Don't teach people what to think, but you wanna teach them how to think, and that means how to use a systematic approach to break things down and then be able to speak to their decisions, right?
Mhm.
And you have now empowered people, and that should be the goal, that should be what we are striving to do, and that should be the gauge in which we are judging ourselves on of how if we're a good leader or not.
How do we delegate without abandoning people?
Well, once again, my answer is always gonna this is gonna be a reoccurring theme on this podcast is you need a systematic approach, right? So that's key. So, and then we like to practice this, and it's something that I try to build systems to facilitate, which we got this from Jacob, is decentralized command, right? And decentralized command is all about delegation. So it's empowering people to make real time decisions without having to run it up the chain of command. And the reason why they're able to do it is because they have the decision making framework already. And
Mhm.
so they're going to apply the same decision making framework that I would apply. And once you show me the merit of you being able to operate that decision making framework, then I am going to trust you and give you leeway, decentralized command out in the field to make decisions without having to come to me first. Now, obviously, once you've made the decision, you've executed it, I need to be updated on what's going on, what you
Mhm.
did, and all of that, because that's respect. But you don't have to, because a lot of times whether things get done quickly or the amount of pain that's involved is all about how quickly we are able to execute or address something, right? So
Mhm.
sometimes situations require the ability to be able to make a real time decision in just that in real time. And so it all goes back to the systems, the training, the empowerment, and teaching your people how to put things through filters and then be able to speak to their decisions. And so every time they make a decision and they come back to you and they walk you through their decision making process and the filter that they put it through, they're earning trust. And then you can give them more and more leeway, right? But then you're still following up and coaching and seeing how they did. And you still have frequent meetings, may it be weekly, may it be monthly or whatever, to where we're checking back up on how are you doing with these things? How did you like to where I didn't just let you go and then I never come back and check in on you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's finding that proper balance between giving people free reign without feeling like they're breathing down their neck and micromanaging, which there are also times where micromanagement to a degree is required, right? And then you get through that period and you earn trust, right? A lot of times in the beginning, there is going to be more hands-on. And then through that period, you should be working on earning trust from whoever it is that you're in their charge, right? To where they can slowly start giving you more reign, giving you more um, room, trust, more room to operate, right? To where you don't have to run as many decisions up the chain of command. So just like with insurance adjusting, we're sending out all this money. Well, if you're a low ranking adjuster, your off level or your authority level in which you have to be able to write payments is at a certain threshold. So like lower level adjusters, they may only be able to authorize a payment of 5 grand or less, right? And then your next tier can do 10, your next tier can do 20, and then so on and so forth.
Risk mitigation 101.
Yep. So as you get better, and then what got your off level up is a continued history of showing that you are able to interpret policy, speak to it, and justify why you're doing what you're doing. And as long as you can do that, they will increase your authority level, right? And so, no different with decentralized command. The decisions that you're able to make without having to run up the chain of command can increase based off your ability to show that you're able to execute the decision making framework.
Yeah. And that sounds a lot like your ability to grow is directly proportional to the truth you are willing to listen to about yourself. So, like when you show that you can do things as if you're in someone's charge and they can trust you, it's like here, like because there's so much there's not a um scarce supply of problems to solve. So
Yeah.
when you when you can share the wealth of problems, most leaders want to do that. And then, but we're really hitting on here that like it's twofold. Like the person in the leaders, like the people you're leading have to be able to earn your trust, and they need to do their part. But it's like the player coach analogy. But also, as the coach or the leader, you also need to check yourself and make sure, like, ask yourself that question: Hey, am I intentionally empowering people to make decisions similar to the way I would make them, but without needing me to make them?
Yeah.
And then if you can feel confident, and if you can answer that, then that's where the juice is. Like, go to that. Like, because you should be able to answer it because if you're able to make the decisions and you just haven't given someone the login or you haven't given someone the training, that's what you need to go do.
Yep.
And so,
Start here.
and that kind of sums up like letting people struggle enough to grow. So that doesn't happen if you don't give people rope. And I know there's that rope analogy of like give people rope and we gave them rope and they hung themselves.
Yep.
We've said that before. But really and truly, it's like you, as a leader, you're not going to lead people. People are going to disappoint you. People are going to let you down. People are going to hang selves with said rope.
And you're also going to let your own self down. You're also gonna
Exactly.
disappoint your own self.
Exactly. And that's at the beginning of the episode, we talked about give that grace that you give to yourself, like be willing to give it to others. But like the reality is, we're not going to, like, it's a fallacy to think we're not going to struggle. It's a fallacy to think that people aren't going to make mistakes. So it's like, hey, if I train well and then they make mistakes, they're just gonna make maybe less. And then there's a point that I had to come to where, and it is an ego trip. It will take you on a wild ride if you let it. And I'm equipping you with have really good counsel around you that can that can get in your face if they need to. Um, but like there comes a point where you got to get really good at fixing things. And you gotta know that, like, "Hey, I'm about to give this lead to this sales rep. He may absolutely botch it, but I believe in my ability to coach him through it and also rebound the ball
if need be.
if need be." Like, that level of leadership, I've shared this with a couple of friends that are, like, in year 1 of starting their own business, and that's kinda what I told them is, like, it helps when you can recruit well. It helps when you can get somebody who's done this a time or 2, and they can lead you. That really helps, but at the end of the day, you gotta be there comes a point where you have to say, "I'm willing to take the hit because I believe in the ability of fixing it." And all good. I think I haven't met a leader yet that's done it for any amount of time that has not nodded their head yes to that. That's you're just scared of your ability to be able to fix the problem. And when you fix a lot of problems, you
Well, and that ties directly into the 75% rule.
boom.
Right?
Tell them about the 75% rule.
That 25% is what you're talking about. The 25% is your ability to fix it, is your training, is your skills, is relying on yourself to be able to overcome a storm,
Yep.
right? Even if one comes from it, you're not scared of it. You're going to attack it and you're going to turn that mother sucker into a positive because that's what you do, right? And
Because it's just all we do.
that's your 25%. And then you still need to plan because if you don't plan, you're planning to fail, right? So you still need to get your plan there 75% of the way, and then that's good enough. Now send it and then trust on your 25%, your ability to fix it.
Yep. So talk to let's move to are we good there on that
Yep.
segment? The question is, and we kind of hit on it, but if everything falls apart when you're gone, are you actually leading? And we would like I would answer that as no. Because what that says is um you did not empower your people to be able to make decisions similar to you while you're gone.
And most likely what it all boils down to once again, it's going to be a recurring theme here. Your systems suck.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That we should get a shirt. Your system suck. That's like a shirt. Like That's 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 a shirt. I will be wearing that shirt next episode.
Got systems.
Yeah. No, well, I want the suck in there because it's such a buzzword for people or
Yes.
trigger word. So Carter, let's talk about the cost and reward of leadership.
Yes.
How crowded is leadership? Like or excuse me, how lonely is it?
It is very lonely. Leadership can be extremely lonely if you're doing it what I call the proper way. And what I mean by that is, we already hit on this too, is are we moving in a manner in which we're moving to be respected? Or are we moving in a manner in which we're trying to be liked? Now, if you're trying to be liked, then in the beginning, leadership probably won't be that lonely because
Nah, it'll be fun.
that'll be fun. It's gonna be your people are gonna be telling you how great you are and blah blah blah. But then when it comes time to actually execute and move the ball forward and actually succeed, you're gonna find that you're not gonna be able to do that, and your people aren't gonna be anywhere to be found, right?
Yeah.
And you're gonna try to figure out why, and it's because instead of being at practice, you allowed them to go party or go f off or go, plug in anything that's not gonna get them to where they need,
Yep.
and you didn't hold them accountable to a high standard. And so when it's time to perform, they're not able to perform. And
I
you probably weren't able to perform either because you were probably with them.
Yep. I call part of this I think of is I like choosing my lonely
Yep.
versus feeling because you're either going to be lonely because someone's going to dodge you and when they come in the office they're going to go straight past your office and maybe not say hello, not because they're mad, but they're just maybe that you they don't like you enough to come in there and
Yeah.
BS with you for a moment. But I tell you what, they're going right past your office to go do what they know they need to do, And I've experienced this lonely where everyone stops at my office and says, "Good morning, hello, happy lunch, happy day." And then guess who's not there at 9 PM? Those people. That and guess what you're working on? The stuff they forgot because they were people pleasing all day
Mhm.
and they weren't focused. And so they were talking to you about all the excitement and all the cool things that they probably didn't even do. Um, Yet you're there. If the buck stops with you and you hold yourself to a high standard, you're there and you're there on purpose and it's your responsibility. It's your fault you're there because you're there alone at the end of the day trying to clean up this and clean up that. And so I just share that part is intentional loneliness is is kind of where it shifts the frame to to being to feeling like you're uncontrollably lonely, like, I don't have another choice but to be lonely, to, "No, I'm choosing this."
Yeah, but I don't think it stays that way. I think like the beginning stages of leadership, it does come with a lonely period, a lonely
Phase.
phase. But as you continue to gain merit and stick to your principles and not deviate and move from respect and giving respect, it as time goes on, what you find is you're going to have quality over quantity. So
Mhm.
you're going to have people that are going to come to you, right? And that are going to be in your corner and that are going to you know, be there for you and you're going to remove that lonely piece, but it's not going to be, say, the entire team. It's just going to be a select handful of people who get it, who get you, and that are high speed. And when the two of you have conversation, man, it's high quality conversation. It's
It's intentional.
it's intentional. It's high quality conversation, and it moves the needle. And it's not surface level nonsense that doesn't like that to both of you probably felt like a waste of time.
True. Yeah.
So in the beginning it is, but as long as you stick to the process and you don't deviate and you maintain your principles, those special people that only a small handful of people get to have relationships with are gonna show up. And to me, that's worth 100 people.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's one of those things that until you see it, you won't believe it, but I'm asking you to trust it, and again, you'll probably be just like me who heard all the other people say it and learn it the hard way, or disrespect or not prioritize or not value, what we just like what Carter just shared, but I'm asking you to lean into it. It's not always lonely, and, um I've found recent something to do in the lonely, which is, you know, be happy with being with Derek, which I think is I didn't plan that. That's not in our bullet points, but like, man, when you can, that's a great time to reflect if you're sitting there by yourself. So, let's talk a little bit about, what has leadership taught us about ourselves?
Leadership has taught me a whole bunch about myself. Um, I think the biggest thing that like volunteering for leadership or putting yourself in that position, if you choose to see it this way, you get the opportunity of getting advanced mirrors. What I mean by that is your people are mirroring back to you
Yeah.
things that you don't like about yourself or that you didn't like about yourself or that you struggled with or whatever. And you have to day in and day out deal with those.
Face them.
Yeah, face them, right?
You gotta face them.
If you avoid them, things get worse. And so you can either choose to see it as a negative or you can choose to see it as a positive. But through it, it has revealed a lot to me about myself because I see it in that manner. So if something about somebody triggers me, right, or makes me feel a certain way, I start asking why and get curious about it.
Mhm.
And so it increases your opportunity to learn more about yourself if you choose to see it that way.
Yeah.
And so that's what and it's taught me, like, specifically, it has taught me, like, I learned that I was a people pleaser, and that um being liked isn't necessarily a good thing. It taught me the difference between being kind and being nice. Being nice is a doormat, being kind comes with respect and boundaries. Um, it taught me how to actually execute grace, what it actually looks like, how to love the right way, and that love isn't just soft. Love is also hard, right? Love can also be tough, tough love. And, like, so what does that look like? How do I actually execute that? It taught
Responsibly? Like, how do you
responsibly.
do it responsibly?
Your principles are constantly tested through leadership. Your standards,
Trees wisely.
are you gonna compromise yourself? Are you gonna compromise your principles? Um, so, like, I feel like if you step into leadership, you get max opportunity for max growth.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That was all of those things are very evident for me. What leadership has taught me about myself specifically is that I'm nowhere near as effective or great as I think I am. And I also have some gifts that not a lot of people have as well. And so a lot of what Carter just said, but it's like because you are put because your decisions ripple, and because you're in a place of leadership, everyone is watching you and taking what you say, and you're just like you just mentioned, it's a true heightened, overdriven experience of who you are, and it's going to be exactly what you want it to be. If you're trying to find the growth, if you're looking for the juice and you're trying to find ways to improve, it's going to be a blast. If you're hoping it's gonna be easy and you're looking for a quick win, or you think you're gonna conquer self, in 5 or 6 months, you're sadly mistaken, and you're gonna give up, and you're gonna run for the hills, and so, what leadership has taught me about me is that I got a lot of work to do, and, um, but again, that is, to me, where the juice is, because I'm able to I'm able to leapfrog a lot of things with when you build teams, you start getting other people who've overcome that, like say 10 years ago, and you're able to just go to them. And because you have merit, because they see that you're doing all this other stuff that you can help them with, they're actually genuinely able to help you overcome some stuff faster. And they're gonna, and that to me, that's something that I'm extremely grateful for. But uh, to summarize it, like if you don't want the truth about yourself, then don't sign up for leadership. Like, go get led by somebody, which is also fine. But um, you know, I think what's one leadership belief you've changed your mind about? For me, uh, that's a tough one. I would have to say one leadership belief that you've changed your mind about. I would have to say, um, you get in what you put out, or excuse me, you get out what you put in. Like I thought, like with self, if you go to the gym, you're going to get stronger. Well, in leadership, you can really give to people and they could not reciprocate. And so that's that's one that's one piece. Or you can talk to your blue in the face, or but that's one, I guess, one leadership belief I've changed my mind about, and that's why it's so important to have good systems, good discernment, good counsel around you to make sure you're not pouring into a cup with a hole in it. Um, what about you? What's one leadership belief you've changed your mind about?
I mean, I've changed my mind. We've hit on quite a few of them already, that I've changed my mind about. Which one the we hit on the two main ones earlier on, and then as of recently, It's not necessarily changed my mind about, and maybe this would go into still trying to find that healthy balance between, firmness, toughness, and warmth,
Yeah.
and figuring out
What that looks like.
what that looks like. But I guess I thought I thought there was like a one size. I didn't necessarily think that, but I think like the approach to that is actually fully variant on the person. So, because some are going to need more toughness than others, and some are going to need some toughness but more warmth in order to get them, like, they don't require that.
Yeah.
And then it's being able to speak to and figure out and break down and understand why each personality type needs what,
Yeah.
and figuring out how to channel that version of me to be what it is that they need, because those are the things that I can control that give the highest probability of them overcoming the obstacle or stepping into this next version or next level of themselves, um, and just being able to control those things. But it's not necessarily something that I've changed my mind about, because I'm pretty firm in my leadership beliefs at this stage because I've been in it for a while. So not nothing anything that I've necessarily nowadays. It's more of just dialing in the nuance of things,
Yeah.
like the overarching principles and things that like of how I'm going to go about this. I'm pretty locked in, and now it's like taking it and mastering it and taking it to the next level.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it would be because if we said what was one leader, so the next question is what's one leadership weakness you're still actively working on? That would be it, is getting that down of being a master at, like, if you watch, uh and it's what made me wanna do this and made me realize, like, that I possess the ability to do this, and that I felt like with tempering myself and going through the fire that I could too get to that point one day, is watching Tony Robbins and Date with Destiny, or just where you can actually watch the film of him, like, actually at his events where he's, like, actually walking somebody through their crap. Like, they're doing a full-on therapy session in front of thousands of people and on camera, and you literally get to watch him do what he does. And I'm more so paying attention to him. I'm still paying attention to their responses and stuff, but if you notice, every person he interacts with, they all get a different version of Tony. There's even scenes where people point that out, and, like, the one where the lady was in very masculine energy, and she pointed out, "The other girl, you were very sweet to her and nice, and that girl didn't get a extremely masculine version of Tony." But she pointed out that she got that version of him, and she even understood why she got that version of him. And so I just and I wouldn't necessarily call it a weakness, but it's something that I'm really putting a lot of, because if I feel like I can get that down, that right there is gonna move the needle more than anything.
Yep. So it's just an area of focus.
If yeah,
I mean, as a different way to say it.
now,
Like,
are there times where I failed at that, or I could have done way better, or, you know, I didn't get the result that I was looking for, and then just trying to take stock of, like, what could I have done differently there? Like, what part of this was my fault? Um, Still also, while, you know, this person, were they, like, going through the filters? Were they maintaining their energy? Were they trying to stay in the energy of the problem? Were they wanting to stay resentful? Were they wanting to try to solve the problem? Were they rationally working through things? Were they avoiding talking about it? Like, a lot of times in those situations where they went wrong, the answers are, yeah, they were avoiding it, or yeah, they were staying in the energy. So then it's like, okay, I can only control so much of that, but then it's like, all right, well, when that does happen, what are things that I can do to try to break those cycles or offset those things?
Yeah.
Like, and then what's in my control? And I just want to be able to master myself to where no matter what is thrown at me or who thinks they have my buttons, they no longer can press them. I control those buttons. They're mine.
Yeah. And I think that's important. That's something I would say, what's one leadership weakness for me you're still actively working on? I would like to say all of them, but to hyper focus on one is like being transitioning from being understanding to really leading. Like for me, it's like uh part of the acronym I wrote down for prep before this was lead, the word lead, and it's listen, example, accountability, develop. And we kind of went over all of those, but you need to listen, you need to be an example, you need to be able to show what accountability looks like, but you also need to hold people accountable to it. And then you gotta develop both yourself, so you need to be focusing on developing yourself, um, and you should want to develop others and help them reach development.
Yep.
But for me, it's, I've done a lot of research and, um, I have a lot of, uh I'm newer to this, like, I mean, I'm a business owner and, started a business when I was 26. So, um being put into, and we've had we grew the team pretty big pretty quick, and so there was a lot of trial by fire, a lot of mistakes, and so, but for me it's kind of like giving myself some freedom to truly lead, and um not people please as much is really what I'm focusing on is, but in order to do that, and I know in order to do that, and my reluctancy there is that I have to be more intentional and more focused on what's in Derek's control, because I can easily do it like with things I've done before, but as I'm hitting new enemies or new targets, um, it's that a never ending evolution of what we're talking about, and increasing the, you know, time that I take with myself to reflect, increasing the intention I put on conversations, and just leveling up in all areas. That's why it's rather hard for me to answer that question. Um, but um, what would you tell someone, Carter, that's getting their first opportunity to lead tomorrow?
Figure out what your why is. Why are you doing this? Why do you want to be a leader? And if it is not genuinely to A, grow yourself, give you an opportunity to increase the rate at which you're able to grow through leadership, and then B, to be able to help develop other people to where they can do the same and to where you can make the max impact on society. Because the biggest, we don't have enough great leaders, right? So if you can grow yourself to become a great leader and then help mold and shape other great leaders, then that to me is one of the biggest services that you can provide to your fellow man, is through that process, through that. So if it's not anywhere in that lane, right? Like the things that come with it, like those should just be bonuses. Like those should just be byproducts of the
The main
main,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're not looking for that, I would say probably leadership might not be for you,
Not yet.
or maybe not yet,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe in the future it will, but like the current, like just like insurance adjusting wasn't for me at that time. I wasn't actually, gave me a taste of it, but the current version of me was not ready for it. Like
Yeah.
he got chewed up and spit out. Um,
And if that's you, like, just that's also fine, just ask yourself why. Like, that's what I wanna encourage people is not to go start a company tomorrow, not to go, uh, act like somebody you're not tomorrow, like, not put on your facade or your coat of what you think leadership looks like just because you listen to a podcast, but really and truly, it's like, if you're, um Carter just mentions a good point, like, if leaderships is one of the, we're saying we put a lot of stock in it, and we think that it's, raising the standard, wherever you're at. Like if you can do that, protect the standard, raise the standard, be an example to people, help people reach their highest potential. Like if you could do that, but if that's not for you, I would encourage you to ask yourself why, because most likely it's because um there's a fear or something associated to why you don't wanna do it, and then instead of saying acting all, like, masculine that, like, it ain't for everyone, it's like, it's not for everyone, but I also am gonna say, "Hey, go put your finger on that fear," because even if you're not gonna lead someone, you need to be able to lead yourself.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Everybody's a leader in some capacity, though. So, like,
Just depends on what you
you're not gonna get away from it.
It's like everybody's a sales rep.
Yeah.
Whether you believe it or not, whether you call yourself sales or not, like, sales is w we if you open your mouth,
If you have kids, you're a leader, right?
yeah.
If
Yep.
you're in a relationship, you're a leader, right? You're both leading in that relationship in some capacity. You all have your strengths, you have your thing that it's your responsibility in that relationship and vice versa. You know, if you have a younger brother, you are a leader, right?
Yep.
We've all led in some capacity. It's just uh, to what degree, like as you up the ante, right, of leadership, are you ready? And just understand when you do that, you now have people that are your responsibility. And if you are not ready, you should not do that to those people.
Yeah.
That's not fair to them. Now,
Yeah.
they can still take that negative and turn it into a positive and grow from it, but it would have been unnecessary
Yeah.
to a degree.
And I like to say, if you ain't ready, you better get ready.
Yep.
Like, cause it's just work. That's all it is. You just gotta put attention towards it, and it's just work, and so if you wanna wrap us up, Carter, this has been a fun one.
Yes, love this one. Super excited about this. I feel like there's a whole bunch in here. Hopefully you made it through to the end. And for those, if you did, you're the rare few, and congrats on you for having a extended attention span. And if you're like me, you probably didn't hit this all in one sitting. You probably were resilient, and it was, you know, a drive here, a drive there, getting ready, laying down in the bed, and through that whole process, you finished the video, right? So that's usually how I digest long form content. So kudos to you for that. But for those who couldn't make it all the way through, we will clip this up, segment it up, and get it out as well so the main points can be hit. But with that, if you did make it all the way through, that means you had to have enjoyed the content. Please, it means the world to us if you'd give us a like, a share, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel so we can get this thing off the ground, continue to keep making these and make an impact, and help people, because there's plenty of people out there saying these things, but hopefully we'll be able to help some people that needed to hear it in the way that we package it, because everybody packages things differently. So we're just wanting to be there and do our part for the people who need it packaged the way that we chose to package it. So
Yep, yep, and we're all and like everything we've talked about, we're gonna consistently be raising the bar, so we're
correct.
gonna keep getting better, we're gonna keep, uh, just expanding the room together, so that's what we're here for.
Sweet. Well, it was another fun one. Thank you guys for joining us.
We'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week.